Board of County Commission zoning hearing on Wednesday, November 29th at 2023. And if we could call to order with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Barnett, Commissioner Baxter, Commissioner Bernard, here. Vice Mayor Marino,
here.
Mayor Sachs,
Here.
Commissioner Weiss,
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, if we could have Commissioner Woodward lead us in prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Dear God, we seek your help with our affairs today. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and help us to make the best use of our time. We are of diverse opinion here, yet we wish to reach agreement satisfactory for all. Please share your wisdom with us to help us do the right thing by all concerned. Thank you for your heavenly blessing. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Is there proof of publication?
Yes.
Very good. And if we could have a motion to receive and file, I have Commissioner Weiss and second by Commissioner Woodward. Or no, that was Commissioner Barnett. Thank you very much. And see that it passes, all those for it. Anybody opposed? 7-0. Thank you. And, yes, we have one commissioner missing, so it is 6. The commissioner has now arrived very discreetly, so now it is 7-0. And if we could have the county attorney to swear in all those who wish to give testimony in today's hearing, please rise and be sworn in by the county attorney.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, are there any amendments to the agenda?
We have one amendment to the agenda for item number 8, ZW 2022-1517 Kagigis Medical Center, Exhibit C1 to modify planning condition number 1.
Very good, thank you. And if there are any postponements, remand, withdrawals from the agenda, please.
We have one item for postponement. Item number 1, PDD-CA 2021-00829 Delray Self-Storage, and no motion is necessary as it's administratively remanded to DRO.
Very good. Thank you. Going on to the consent agenda. If there's any commissioner who wants to pull any item from the consent agenda, Mr. Redder.
Mayor, one thing. I do think we need to go back to F and adopt the agenda as modified.
Okay, very good. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as modified?
So moved.
Okay, motion is by Commissioner, who's it over there? Was that Bernard? Oh, very good. And seconded by Commissioner Woodward. See that it passes. Everybody for, is anybody against? See that it passes 7-0. Okay, now we're going on to consent. Is there any commissioner who would wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? Very good. Now let's get ready to do disclosure. Very good. And we have a motion by the Vice Mayor to accept the agenda, consent agenda as is. And do I have a second? A second also by Commissioner Baxter. See that anybody for, anybody opposed? See that it passes before we take the vote. Okay, very good. Thank you. We communicate without you even having to say a word. It's amazing. That's a fine lawyer. All right, let's start with disclosures, and we're going to start with Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. And item number 2, nothing, no disclosures. Item number 3, no disclosures. Item number 4, no disclosures. Item number 5, no disclosures. Item number 6, no disclosures. Item 7 and 8, no disclosures. Items 9 and 10, no disclosures. Thank you.
That would mean no disclosures on any of them. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Woodward.
For consent agenda, no disclosures.
All right. Commissioner Weiss.
On consent agenda, no disclosures.
And the mayor has no disclosures. Vice Mayor?
No disclosures on consent.
Very good. Commissioner Bernard?
Madam Mayor, no disclosures.
Thank you. And Commissioner Baxter?
The same, Madam Mayor, no disclosures.
Very well, thank you. All right, moving right now, we're going to do the vote. We've already had a first and a second. Is there anybody opposed to accepting the consent agenda? As noted, there's no opposition. It looks like it passes 7-0. We've already noted who filed the motion and seconded. Now we're going on to the regular agenda. And so let's move right on to the regular agenda, which is 7 and 8.
Yes, item number 7 and 8 are companion applications. 7 is a small-scale future land use amendment for Kagigis Medical Center, and 8 is the companion rezoning and waiver for the same site. You can turn it over to the applicant for presentations if you so like.
Very good. Thank you so much. If the applicant could come forward on number 7 and companion number 8 on the regular agenda. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Kevin McGinley, representing the owners and the developers of the property. The applications are pretty straightforward. We have a 2-acre parcel, long and narrow and deep, and it has residential land use and it has commercial land use. We're combining those to go into the urban infill and a companion zoning application for the 22,000 square foot medical center. I can get into more detail if you like, but it is what it is. It's pretty straightforward. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Good. We're going to do staff presentation first, sir, and then
Okay.
we'll have any questions or comments to you by the commissioners. Staff, could you give us a little presentation on 7 and 8? Right?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. And Peter Germain with the Planning Division will present on the small-scale future land use amendment
Very
request.
good. Thank you, sir. Good morning, Mr. Germain.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. All right, Peter Germain with the Planning Division. All right, the item before you is a privately initiated small-scale future land use amendment, Kagigis Medical Center. The subject site is 2.11 acres located on the east side of Military Trail and south of Summit Boulevard. The site currently has a split future land use of 0.86 acres on the western portion, fronting Military Trail, which has a flue of commercial high with 8 dwelling units per acre, and medium residential with 5 dwelling units per acre on the remaining 1.25 acres. The applicant is proposing a future land use amendment to urban infill. The concurrent zoning application intends to rezone the site to urban infill and develop a 2-story, 22,000 square foot medical office. The URA overlay was adopted to implement the URA master plan prepared by the county and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council in 2007. 2 new urban mixed-use future land use designations were established, urban center and urban infill. The urban center applied to those areas with the greatest mixed-use development or redevelopment opportunities, while urban infill used smaller urban lots and mixed-use areas at the edges of existing neighborhoods. The intent of the new land use designations was to provide an urban form-based land use and zoning that would promote higher densities and square footage in a manner to promote pedestrian activity and transit use. The URA master plan and implementing policies adopted in 2007 to 2008 named the Military Trail, Lake Worth Road, and Congress Avenue corridors as priority redevelopment areas. During the URA master plan process, the subject site was previously deemed appropriate to have the UI designation. At the time, the previous owners of the subject site opted out of the county-initiated amendment. Fast forward to today, the proposed amendment would allow the site to opt into the URA and take advantage of the redevelopment along the Military Trail corridor. Here's a closer view of the surrounding area with the subject site outlined in white and red. The site currently has a 2,500 square foot building, which was used for a commercial turf and landscape business. To the north and west of the site, front to Military Trail, are various commercial and retail uses with urban infill future land use designations. South of the site, front to Military Trail, is a retail building on 2.58 acres, followed by various commercial retail uses further south, all having the UI future land use designation. Immediately to the east of the site are various subdivisions with a mixture of single and multifamily homes with the MR5 future land use designation and pockets of HR8 and LR3. The parcels which currently have the UI future land use designations were amended during the comprehensive plan amendment in order to foster a more urban form, promoting pedestrian activity and transit use in this area of the county. Staff has concluded that the proposed amendment will foster infill and is compatible with the surrounding urban infill future land use designations and adjacent commercial uses. Represents an opt-in to the URA, which promotes growth and discourages sprawl in directing development where resources exist. Lastly, the request is consistent with applicable comprehensive plan policies. Staff is recommending approval with the condition to provide vehicular cross access to the parcel to the south. At the November 3rd PLC hearing, the Planning Commission voted 12-0 in support with staff. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine. Is there anything else from staff? We're going to, very good.
Would you like us to do the zoning presentation?
Does anybody want to hear a zoning presentation? No, it looks like we're pretty well prepared.
Okay.
All right, now we're going to move on to staff. To our colleagues, commissioners. Does anybody have any comments, questions to the applicant or to staff on this issue? Very good. Seeing none, then we're open for disclosures. All right. We're going to start again with you, Commissioner Barnett. Any disclosures on 7 or 8?
Thank you, Mayor Sachs. No disclosures on 7 or 8.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you, Mayor. No disclosures.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. No disclosures.
Vice Mayor?
No disclosures, thank you.
Commissioner Bernard?
None, Madam Mayor.
And Commissioner Baxter?
None, Madam Mayor.
Very good. All right, then I believe we're ready to have some motions. Is there a motion? Mr. Rudder?
No cards.
Very good. How smooth is this? Commissioner Barnett, did you have?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance for the Cajigas Medical Center FLUA amendment.
Okay. And Mr. Attorney, can we do this on 7 and 8, its companion, or should we do it separately?
I would do them separately.
Separately, okay. So this is only on 7, and we have a second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody opposed? Very good. See that it passes 7-0. Now we're going on to number 8. You want to go ahead with this, Commissioner Barnett?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving item 8A.
Very good. Do we have a second? Again by Commissioner Woodward. She's faster than you are, Greg. Everybody for it. Anybody opposed? See,
8A and B. Should be 8A and B.
and we're gonna correct that again.
I'll correct my motion. I'll make it a motion to adopt a resolution approving item 8A and 8B.
Commissioner Woodward, are you going to go ahead and second that as well? All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes 7-0 unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sit down while you got it. Okay.
Sorry to take up all that time.
That's all right. Moving on to number 9, North Lake Commercial. And we have an applicant. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Jeff Brophy with WGI. We do have a presentation. However, we have worked with staff through the process. We have a recommendation of approval from staff. We have Zoning Commission and Planning Commission unanimous support for the project. Happy to go through the presentation, but in lieu of that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Just 1 minute, sir. Does anybody wish to see a presentation by the applicant? Very good. We have some commissioners who would like to speak up. Go ahead.
All I was going to say was,
Mayor?
as the district commissioner, and I do have a disclosure. I did talk with Scott Backman, but I don't think we need a presentation, and I'm comfortable with this.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And Commissioner Barnett? Did you have your light on? No? All right, take it. Okay, very good. Does staff wish to do a presentation? All right.
We are available, Mayor. I'll leave that to the discretion of the board if you all would prefer a presentation or
Very
not.
good. Would anybody like to see a presentation by staff? All right, we've done, should we do our disclosures at this time? And we're going to start with you, Commissioner Baxter. Any disclosures?
No disclosures, Madam Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Bernard.
No disclosures, Madam Mayor.
And you've already disclosed yours, Vice Mayor.
Scott Bachman, yes.
Commissioner Weiss
No disclosures.
and Commissioner Woodward
Thank you, Mayor. No disclosures.
and Commissioner Barnett.
No disclosures, Mayor. Thank you.
And the mayor has no disclosures. So note all of those for the record. I think we're ready to go for a vote.
So, Mayor, I will make a motion that we adopt an ordinance for the North Lake Commercial FLUA amendment.
Very good. I have a second by Commissioner Weiss. Everybody for? Anybody against? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Beth.
Thank you.
And Mayor, may I make a motion for 10A and B to adopt a resolution approving both those items?
Okay, we have because these are companion items, so we're going to go ahead with the motion by the Vice Mayor with a second by Commissioner Weiss. Everybody for it? Anybody opposed? See that 10, the companion item, also passes unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
And I think we're fine with that. So does that include 10A and B? Yes. Very good. So let the record reflect that. We moved on to 10A and B. And now we're going on to C. And we're going on to number 11. And we have some cards. One card on this. So we probably, do we need a staff? We need any staff report on number 10 before we go on to the card?
You mean 11?
11.
I'm sorry, it's C11. And I have my glasses on.
Kevin, this is planning's item.
I can provide a brief overview for the board on this item. So this is not taking any specific action on any particular property. As you all are aware, in the agricultural reserve, there are a number of preserved parcels associated with various types of AGR PUDs. And for each various type of AGR PUD, there's a conservation easement template. So this action would be adopting that new template for agricultural reserve preserve properties with institutional and public facilities with an underlying congregate living residential.
Very good. And the staff is approving this?
Recommending approval.
Very good, very good. Okay. Do we have a motion on? We have a card. And we have, okay, one card. Go right ahead.
Alexandria Larson.
3 minutes.
Really screw up that name. How are you, ladies and gentlemen? How are you doing today? The only thing that I have concerns with templates and overlays, anything with the agricultural preserve, reserve, because we had an idea back when we voted for this. We really did, about buying acres and putting them aside, and they'd be for farming down there. Because the one line that blew up in my face when I was reading thousands of pages of crap last night was to accommodate new development. This is what we're doing, and I think at the time, right at the moment, commissioners, with the Fed up over the stratosphere, with all the things that are going on in our county, maybe we should take a step back when we're accommodating new development and what we are going to put in Palm Beach County. What is the general idea? Because when we did the comp plan, when we did the flu, when we did all the acronyms, there was a general idea. And I know one of the commissioners did say, well, it's a new world out there. We're going to be doing different things here. And I am really concerned about farmland. Somebody sent me a meme that said, if we don't have farms, we're not going to eat. So I'd like them to be nearby. That's just my personal opinion and my thought, because accommodating new development, because the next two items that are on the agenda, they also accommodate new development or changes in our comp plan, FLUA, whatever acronym you want to pull up there, because we really do need a glossary of what all the stuff is. But thank you for your time. But maybe we should step back when it comes to the ag reserve, preserve, and see what we're really going to do with our county. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. No other cards. We are going to proceed to a vote. And this is on, again, C11. Do I have, okay, Commissioner Weiss.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve, to establish a new ag reserve conservation easement template for projects with the institutional and public facilities with an underlying congregate living residential future land use designation.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Marino. Everybody for? Anybody opposed? See that it passes 7-0. Now we're going on to D12, and this is going to be with regard on permission to advertise on commercial pod plan unit development, ULDC. And do we have any applicants for this?
No.
No,
Yes,
very good.
we
So
do.
we're going to go right on to staff.
The request before you is a privately initiated amendment and the request for permission to advertise. A privately initiated amendment is a two-phase process. We've already done phase 1 and this is phase 2. So we will turn it over to the applicant to summarize what the proposed code changes are.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Ken Toom with Urban Design. As Ms. Hernandez indicated, this is the second step of a two-step process. The request in front of you today is to allow up to 2% of land area within a PUD to be applicable to commercial. I have a PowerPoint presentation I can walk you through, but I can just kind of verbalize it too to make it a little bit quicker if you'd like. 2%, 1% to 2% in a PUD. It also eliminates the requirement for it to be internal to the project. This allows it to be external but still have internal access. The language the language will be up on the screen for the proposed changes here. That's the proposed language, and happy to answer any questions you may have today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toom. Does staff have anything to say before we go on to questions?
No, just that we worked diligently with the applicant on this. Their original request was 5%, and through discussion with staff and analysis and review, their request for phase 2 is 2%. Our Land Development Regulation Advisory Board recommended approval and found the 2% consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so you recommend this. Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Are there any, don't go away, Mr. Tooma, any questions or comments by my colleagues to the applicant? Seeing none, I think we're ready for a motion.
You have a card.
Oh, we have a card. One card?
Yes.
Very good.
Alexandria Larson.
Hi, sweetie. How are you? How are you? You know, when I was reading the backup to this, they had to go back to 1974 to find the 2%, because they have listed about 13 properties that are little slivers and a piece of this and a piece of that. And once again, we're going up. It was 1% forever. Forever. Now we got to go to 2%. It's more. I can't imagine how much more do we have to do to accommodate things, because this also affects collector and arterial roads. And can they connect to them, and footage? Because we always present things as it's just going to be this one little piece of land, 446 acres, which is zoned 1 in 10. And it's going up to LR2, which they're going to get 892 places, give or take. And then they'll have workforce housing. And then they'll have the commercial pod that's going to be 2% instead of 1% now, which will collect arterial and collector roads. This really does affect how things work in this county. It's really innocuous. I laughed when I read this agenda because I know we're concerned about something out in our area right now, but this is in our area too. This is on Southern Boulevard. And the one thing the developers and the master planners and everything do is they come in for more. It's always more, commissioners, and it's just got to stop. You know, I want more. I want 2 Lexuses in my driveway. I want my house to be 2 stories instead of 1. You know, we all want more. We all want a lot. But it shouldn't be that we keep constantly changing the rules, because they did. When you go back and look at this, 74, 86, I mean, they had to really dig into their pockets to find this. And most of them were in Boca Raton. A majority, I'm not saying all, but a majority in that backup was little slivers in Boca Raton that they had accommodated. And they were 2.1%, but they literally had to really dig deep. They were digging into China for this one. They really were. So maybe we should step back. I'm asking you to step back while we're going through these really hard times, because the middle class of America is really going through a hard time right now. I don't know. That's my observation, my humble observation. Maybe we should step back and no, don't give them 2%. Not necessarily. It might not work, and it shouldn't collect arterial and collector roads, because God knows we don't know how to drive in Palm Beach County. I know you drove here this morning and had a lot of fun getting here. And people drive, they're on their cell phones and they're drifting into your lane. And I don't want to cross-examine anybody. I don't want to torture anybody. But I do want to ask the commissioners to step back and give us a break, because it might not be a good idea, because everything in that ULDC, if it's just for one piece of land, it's for every piece of land. And it is not an HOA. It is the Unified Land Development Code. That's what it is. So here we are, and I'm begging you to back off and no to 2%, because like I said, if you look at the backup, they really had to dig deep this time.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think that's the only card, and we are ready for a motion. And we have a motion from Commissioner Baxter.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve recommendations for item 12.
Very good. Do we have a second by the Vice Mayor? All those for? Anybody against? See that it passes 7-0. Okay, moving right on to 13. Commercial Vehicles and Residential Zoning, ULDC. And this is for permission to advertise. And I believe that we have an applicant or not?
Staff.
We have staff. So staff, you're on.
Yes, good morning, Lisa Mara, Zoning Director. I will be making the presentation this morning. So let's see if I can get my computer to work right. Okay, because I'm running off of this for a change. So to recap, we were last before you on commercial vehicles on August 24th and August 30th, and in that presentation, we went over some commercial vehicle and residential options for the board, and that was following multiple visits with you about code violations for commercial vehicles in primarily the agricultural residential zoning districts. So at the direction on the 30th was to modify the commercial vehicle definition, to reorganize the language in the code because it is quite confusing, and to continue the one commercial vehicle limit with a 12,500 pound gross vehicle weight rating cap for residential zoning except for the agricultural residential rural service area zoning. And within that zone, the ARRSA is what I'll call it, to increase from 1 to 2 commercial vehicles, to increase the maximum weight from 12,500 pounds gross vehicle weight rating to 16,000 pounds, kind of across the board for that zoning district. And then in particular for the central western communities within the acreage area, to identify if there is a mechanism to establish a path forward for those folks that are parking vehicles larger than 16,000 pounds. So that's what we've worked on and presented for you in the packet. So to recap, a lot of the folks here today are probably from the acreage, also known as Loxahatchee. A lot of those folks have commercial vehicles, as you see in this slide. And to recap, here's some slides about the commercial vehicle weight rating that is done by the U.S. government and FDOT. There's class 1 through 6,000 pounds. Class 2 is from 6,000 to 10,000. So all of these are allowed on anybody's property. When you get above 10,000 pounds, there's a class 3 from 10 to 14,000 pounds. And then class 4 is 14 to 16,000 pounds. So everything on this slide would be allowed in the regular AR zoning district if this ULDC change goes forwards, and that includes those small landscape box trucks that are pretty popular. And what the acreage exception would do is allow an ability to legitimize those commercial vehicles that are in this slide and in this one that are greater than 16,000 pounds. Currently, the code does not allow such vehicles. or trailers that have a capacity of over 10,000 pounds. So what we have in our packet is a series of changes for the ULDC, and I've listed them with 1 through 6. The first is to revise the commercial vehicle definition as directed, and that's in Article 1. To update our home occupation language in the code to match more of the statute, the home-based business language. A couple years ago, the Florida legislature made some modifications, so we need to, as we're updating for commercial vehicles, we need to update some other language in there as well. And again, other than the ARRSA, we would retain the maximum of 1 vehicle up to 12,500 pounds. And again, in the ARRSA, across the board, 2 vehicles up to 16,000 pounds. We'd also reorganize the language in Article 6 and have clear linkage back to Article 4, home-based business, for part of the reason that we're here is because there's so many different articles that discuss commercial vehicles. So this slide mostly discusses the housekeeping items. We are also proposing to modify some of the fence and hedge heights, which are also in 2 articles of the code, to increase the side and rear from 8 to 10 in ARRSA zoning, allow rail fences up to 6 feet in height. We've heard a lot from livestock folks that a 5 or a 4-foot fence won't keep in their horse. So while we're in this part of the code, we would like to revise that as well. And then finally, for ARRSA, we're proposing if the board would allow a path forward, we have some language that's proposed. And to recap what that area is, this would affect the acreage, or also known in part as Loxahatchee. It's shown on this slide. There's over 15,000 parcels on 21,000 acres. And our analysis that we presented to you in August showed this slide. These are the zoning districts on the map. The acreage is shown in peach in kind of the center of the slide. We asked the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Department to share with us the registered commercial vehicles greater than the various weights shown on this slide. And they couldn't give that data to us by the peach area, so we collected it for all of those zip codes in the area, and including the peach area and then all of the land in those zip codes shown on this slide of 33,411, 33,412, and 33,470, there's 179 registered commercial vehicles that are greater than 16,000 pounds. We're still working with the Florida Department of Highway Safety to get the specific locations of those registered vehicles. We do not have that today. We are still continuing to work on that. However, we do have all of the code violations in the area. The red boundary on this map is Indian Trail Improvement District boundary. So we did look at all of the sites that have commercial vehicles that have the dots on this that are still active. There was 186 code violations overall, 65 I believe are still active. So we did look at those. And the path forward that we've developed is outlined on this slide. Oh, and again, we worked with Indian Trails Improvement District very closely about the possibility of a special permit for such uses. They are here to express their opinion on this concept today. They do have a presentation that we have loaded for discussion. And so the concept is, if we establish a path forward, it can't be essentially a grandfathering because it wasn't legal to begin with. But what we've developed is that if a home-based business registered, owned, and stored commercial vehicles up to 2 prior to August 30th, 2023, and that's the date that we had stated and that we received direction on in August, we would allow a 6-month window to apply for an administrative staff approval for those sites that meet Article 11 access requirements. And those that don't, we were recommending would need a BCC waiver, which those items would have to come to you. And the idea behind that is that commercial properties in the county are required to be on an 80-foot roadway that Scott Cantor can very much explain better than me, but typically county maintained and county operated or a FDOT maintained right of way. We're also, per board direction, suggesting the 2 vehicles greater than 16,000 gross vehicle weight, up to the maximum that exists, which is 80,000 pounds. And then what we had proposed in our packet is when the applicant came in to submit, we would look at their vehicle and we would look at their access into the property and do a staff analysis on whether or not that vehicle can make the access turn into the property without going over the culverts, and that they had adequate spacing for their driveway entrance onto the right-of-way. And that was something else that we had worked on with Indian Trails Improvement District, because they're very much concerned as properties pull into or back out, that they can go adjacent to the property, over the culverts or swales, or across the street. Well, most of these roadways are going to be easements. They're not streets in the acreage. We chose to recommend the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the vehicles entering and leaving the site. Those are the hours that are already established for the home limited contractor storage yard, which is allowed currently, that allows commercial vehicles on sites 5 acres and up. And we're also requiring the ownership of the vehicles and registered to the home-based business owner. However, we're proposing an exemption for two vehicles that are stored no more than 2 days per week at the property, that they could maybe be owned by a leasee or a primary company. Now, there's a lot of details that we would have to work out with this as far as the fee schedules, the application requirements and such, and you would see more details on those. Those would be administrative. We would work on prior to first reading. Let's see, do I have any more slides? That pretty much covers it, and I'm available for questions.
Very good. Any questions, Ms. Amara, at this time? Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Lisa. I had a question with regards to lawn care vehicles. Do you have any idea what the typical weight class these vehicles usually fall within? Are these vehicles that fall under 16,000 pounds?
Yeah, most of the most popular, there's a Chevy and an Isuzu pickup truck for the little landscape vehicles that are most popular, are the ones that are shown on this slide in the little white box in the upper right. That's under 16,000. And that's really, if you see landscape vehicles driving around, that seems to be the most popular version. They might not always be a box truck. They might have an open bed. But that weight rating is around 14,000.
Some of those vehicles may exceed the 12,500 GVWR.
Yes, they would. That they would, which makes, in the current rules, a challenge for the home landscaper with the 12.5, because they're currently going to exceed that.
Thank you. Just one other question. I'm reading the third bullet point on item 3. It states, retain a maximum business-related vehicle number and weight to one vehicle with a maximum of 12,500 GVWR. I was curious because the next bullet point, the grandfathering or not grandfathering the provision, it states, allow an exception for properties with 2 vehicles. It just says vehicles, doesn't specify what kind of vehicles. Does that also include or refer to business-related vehicles? When it says vehicles there, does that mean business-related vehicles, commercial vehicles?
Yes, it's the commercial vehicles, the ones that are associated with a business. We tried to draw a distinction in the language. It's been very difficult. If you could see, where's the slide? This slide here, and this slide on the left, the Dodge Ram 350, the Silverado, they could be over 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, but a lot of folks have those as personal vehicles. They're not used for a business. So we drew a distinction in the language about the limitation on the business-related vehicles versus a personal vehicle.
So this exception would allow for up to 2 commercial or business-related vehicles. Would that property owner also be allowed to have like a recreational vehicle, an RV, or a boat, in addition to the 2 commercial vehicles?
Yes.
So, okay, just wanted to thank you for that clarification.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnett. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. The code violations page that you had pulled up with the map, are those just code violations for truck parking, or are those any violations in this area?
This was specifically commercial vehicle violations since 2017, and then we color-coded them by the years. So it's kind of difficult to see on the screen, but the red ones are 2022 2. Most of the ones other than the red and the yellow dots are already been resolved. There's only 65 active code violation cases right now in that red boundary.
Do you happen to know if we make the changes that you're presenting to us today, would that take care of most of those that are in violation right now?
It would take care of the commercial vehicle issues. Some of them have other issues, such as structures without permits or abandoned vehicles or things. It won't address those, but it will address the larger vehicle parts of those violations.
Do we know how many of the 65 are just for commercial vehicle parking and not the buildings and the other stuff?
All of them have commercial vehicles on them, but a lot of them have other issues as well.
So
But
these
some
are
of them,
violations properties that may have multiple violations on the same property.
exactly.
Okay, so 65 parcels have violations right now with the commercial vehicle and maybe additional stuff.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now that we've had staff presentations, there will be no further cards submitted. Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments from Ms. Amara? Why don't we go right into the presentation by the Indian Trails folks?
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Burgess Hansen. I serve as the Executive Director for the Indian Trail Improvement District. I also have with me Mr. Jay Foy, who serves as the District Engineer for Indian Trail. Both Mr. Foy and I report directly to the board, so Mr. Foy does not report to me, which is a little different than most local governments. Today, we're going to be speaking about the impact that this will have on Indian Trail roads and drainage, because it does have an impact and a significant financial impact, which I will get into shortly. So Indian Trail is an ag residential equestrian community that's located just west of the West Palm Beach Metroplex. We're approximately 95 square miles, which includes farmland to the west of Seminole Pratt, including the land that you recently addressed with GL Homes. Our population in the last census was a little over 45,000 people within the 95 square miles. We were first established in 1957 as a water control district specifically for drainage and roads. However, in the late 90s, the voters and the board at that time decided that they also wanted to have parks be part of the district. We're governed by a 5-member board with approximately 82 full-time employees. We have a budget which includes debt of $22 million. However, our operating budget is just over $20 million, which also includes funding for several capital projects, which I'll also get into shortly. The area served, as I said, is 95 square miles. We have paved roads of 96 square miles, dirt roads of 283, and milled roads of 57 miles for a total of 436 miles. We also have several sidewalks, canals, swales, and other drainage-related infrastructure. Sorry, I forgot to move this forward. So just to give you an idea, I know you're familiar with the Indian Trail area, but everything that's within the pink line is our legislative boundary. The shaded areas with the numbers would be our units of development. And just to note, some of our units of development do go over into municipal boundaries such as Palm Beach Gardens and Royal Palm Beach. Our maintenance program for roads in particular, we grade 283 miles on a 10-day rotation. So that means every 10 days, we make sure every quarter mile, half mile, or even longer roads, such as 1/30th, are graded. In the case of some of our more heavily traveled roads, such as 1/30th Avenue, we will grade that twice in a 5-day rotation. So it would be about 4 times in 10 days. And when I say grading, we're not talking about just one pass with a grader. We're talking about several passes, and if it rains, we have to go back through and put in fill, or if there's damage to our roads, then we have to go back and repair those, and the same way with the swales, things of that nature. Earlier, I talked about our planned capital improvements for this year and going into the next couple years. All of this is key because we have planned these projects, whether they be roads, drainage, pumps, anything, based on the current zoning and usage by vehicles. So to jump into some of the concerns that the Board of Supervisors as well as staff has is our roadways are not built for this type of use, for heavy commercial use. We actually have a slide coming up where Mr. Foy will actually go into a little bit more detail, but just quickly, turn radius, subgrade, the base, even the edge of road, none of that is built for this standard, and it will be very expensive for us to either maintain it or to improve it. So right now, we just pulled this from the Palm Beach Consumer Affairs, but it's approximately 500 commercial businesses and approximately 100 plus businesses that are heavy trucking related, and that would be transport, civil, things of that nature. And this is where I'll let Mr. Foy speak a little bit more, but this is one of the biggest concerns that Indian Trail has. We build our roads to a completely different standard than what municipalities or even Palm Beach County builds and designs them. And it's more for rural residential use, horse trailers, things of that nature. We also have a very active equestrian community where we have many people that ride their horses along the roads or on these dead-end streets as well. So I'll let Mr. Foy address some of this.
Good morning. The original plans of reclamation were dirt roads.
Sir, state your name and your position.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jay Foy. I'm district engineer for Indian Trail Improvement District.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Sorry. The original plans of reclamations were done with all dirt roads. Later plans updated some of those roads to paved roads. We've recently entered into a program where we're trying to lay millings on most roads, compacted millings. None of the dirt or millings roads were designed or constructed to take this type of traffic, larger turn radius type traffic. The slide on the lower right shows that the county typical has a thicker wearing surface, a thicker base, and a stabilized subgrade. Even on our paved roads, we don't come anywhere near that type of ability, structural ability to withstand those types of vehicles. One of the major effects, I heard staff talk about the turning radiuses into the properties. You can't make a turn into the property off our typical roads and not go off the edge. In addition, all the intersections were designed with lower radiuses, so every time a large truck with a trailer goes around a radius, there will be road damage. From an engineering perspective, they just weren't built that way. Burgess will cover the financial effects of that. We're not funded by gas sales taxes. We're non-ad valorem, and we do everything on our roads with no support. I'll turn it back over to Burgess.
Thank you, Jay. So we just included a couple of photos here of some of the road damage. This is actually from heavy vehicles, not garbage vehicles or anything else. This was taken by our operations staff out in the field and when they saw it happen. So that's why we put this here. And just to go back to what Mr. Foy was speaking about, you know, the edge of road damage, you can see that in the far right, the impact that heavy vehicles have when they turn. So In addition to roads, as I stated earlier, there's also drainage concerns as well. And our drainage design for the entire district, and Mr. Foy can answer any questions if you have them, is basically our properties, private properties, are supposed to hold a certain amount of water in their design, and they're not supposed to be all filled or covered with impervious surface. Also, our culverts and our swales are designed to actually hold water until we can convey it through the canals into the South Florida water management system. So that's part of the reason why you don't see any undergrounding out in the acreage or the Loxahatchee area, because our swales actually serve as a temporary detention mechanism during heavy rainstorms. So as I said, with larger driveway culverts, that's taking up more swale, and thus we're losing drainage potential as well as storage. And then earlier, Ms. Amara had spoke about damage to neighboring. So when they make the turn with a bigger truck with a trailer, they are going over into other property swales and potentially also their culverts. And we're seeing culvert collapse, edge of culvert collapse as well. And this is just some of, again, some photos that we've taken. We have several more that we actually gave to the staff a couple weeks ago, just to show you some of the issues that we're having currently. Of course, sidewalk damage, we're also having that as well. You can see some of the photos we have where with sidewalks with dirt, which is an ADA issue as well as a pedestrian safety issue, and then the damage from heavy loads where semi-trucks are actually parking on the swales or parking over the sidewalks. As Mr. Foy alluded to earlier, we are a little different than, we're a lot different than a municipality or a county. We only have one source of revenue, so we don't get any other state revenue sharing. We don't have any franchise fees, anything of that nature. So those units, those shaded areas that you saw earlier, each of those units of development have what we call a water control plan, and that dictates what capital improvements need to happen within that unit of development and what the maintenance standards will be and what the costs are. And the way it's set up is any unit of development, whatever capital project or maintenance that we do has to be a benefit to all landowners within that unit of development. So in essence, we cannot just say, well, we'll fix this road differently. Instead of doing, let's say, 5 passes on a grader, because we have a semi-trailer, we have to do 8. We cannot do that under state statute. So we have to assess based solely on per acre costs. And that's part of the issue that the board and the district has with us trying to hand out permits for each individual landowner to figure out whether or not they would have a semi-trailer or a vehicle over the 16,000 pound rate. We don't have the resources to do that. We were never meant to do that. We were meant to construct and maintain. And this slide just reiterates what I just said, but a little simpler. But basically, we cannot give varying levels of service. We have to provide the same level of service to all landowners in all roads and drainage. So our staff, including Mr. Foy, we came up with what we think is the annual damage repair cost from heavy vehicles. And right now, it's almost $250,000, which doesn't sound like much, but I'm sure as Commissioner Baxter is aware, we have been increasing our assessments to cover these types of maintenance costs increases. Our annual road maintenance increase will approximately be almost $750,000, and if this were to be passed, and more vehicles move into this area, that number will go up. Now, we used the FDOT rural lane, rural road cost estimate. I know Mr. Ricks, they do a different one, which is about 5.5 million. But if you can imagine, we would have to spend $3.3 million times 436 miles, because even our paved roads, as Mr. Foy indicated earlier, will not support this type of usage. So again, I'm bringing this to a close here in a quick minute. Basically, all of our infrastructure, even how we worked with the county early on for fill being allowed to be brought onto properties, what the impervious surface versus pervious surface is, all of that is designed around this ag residential zoning, and it never anticipated having heavy vehicles, things of that nature on there. So we would not be able to maintain that level without some type of financial assistance. And again, you all received this letter quite a few times, so I won't go through it because basically the slide or the presentation we just did covered that. And our biggest thing is we want to protect and enhance rural lifestyle as the neighborhood overlay and the comp plan states within the ULDC. And you know, this is right out of Palm Beach County. So our board and the Acreage Landowner Association several years ago worked with county zoning planning on developing that. So we don't come here without some type of solution, and I've met with Mr. Rudder and other staff about this, and I believe our board members may have talked about this during various meetings, but what we would like to see is some storage area that's off a county or state road, even if it's within or along the ITID boundaries, but we cannot have this level of traffic and this type of vehicle on our roadways. It will be a detriment to the landowners of Indian Trail. So with that.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you for coming, Burgess.
Thanks.
How long have semi-trucks been coming and going from the acreage?
Well, I believe prior to the code change, there were probably approximately 30 to 40 we estimated at that time.
But for how many years?
I'm not sure. I don't have that level.
Would you say over 20 years?
Potentially. I don't have
30?
that, and I'm not going to speak to a fact that I do not have.
Excuse me, sir. Let me be very clear. We have some interesting issues to discuss today. We all agree on that. And we will be respectful for every person who gets up to speak, whether they agree with you or not. So don't test me, because if you do, you will be removed from this session. And most importantly for you is you won't be able to have your opinion tested here. So let's be respectful for everybody, and I know you will. You're gentlemen and ladies. Thank you. Go right ahead, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Were you with ITID in 2019?
Yes.
Do you remember the letter that the board sent in 2019?
Yes.
Did it oppose semi-trucks?
No, at the time it did not.
And so we're talking a matter of a couple years. I have spoken to several of the board members, and they were surprised to find out a letter was sent opposing it to this extent that you were here. And I've spoken to several of them, and they seem to be of the opinion they didn't want no limits. And what we're proposing here today has several limits. They didn't just want, okay, here you go, and nothing else added. But that's not what we're doing. We're trying to find a balanced approach to be able to peacefully allow for semi-trucks and the of neighbors. I believe most of the supervisors want to support our semi-truck drivers and our small business owners, and I think that's amazing. I have a lot of respect for most of them. I do appreciate the presentation, but I did have a question regarding the damage cost. A lot of that damage, is that in like swales?
Swales and roads and sidewalks.
And Lisa, if we approve this today, does this allow them to park on roads or in swales? Are we allowing that to take place? Or have we specifically said no?
There would be no parking allowed in the swales with this amendment.
So it would specifically not allow for that to happen. And we have heavy trucks. I mean, what we're talking about here is a difference of a business truck or a personal truck, because you can have a very heavy personal truck. I mean, garbage trucks. How much does a garbage truck weigh that goes up and down our streets? Please. We have UPS, FedEx, all these things. How do you know and how do you attribute any of the costs specifically to a semi-truck?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the way the benefit assessment works is we take into account deliveries to homes, whether it be garbage pickup, things of that nature. So what we did is we looked at areas where we know the damage was caused by heavy vehicles that are within that street, not a FedEx truck. So we did not include, for instance, with SWA, when they come with a grapple, we did not include that in that damage. This is specifically to the best of our abilities, and it could even be more. But what we did is we looked at actual damage from heavy vehicles that are on a property. And again, getting back to the landowner concept is, horse trailers, RVs, things of that nature are very different. And even the entire local government structure is normally you do not put heavy industrial type of vehicles in residential areas.
I would say most people in Palm Beach County have known that semi-trucks have existed in the acreage for decades. It's a well-known common fact, whether legally anyone wants to exist that. And that's another thing I'm worried about is the legal implications of saying just flat out no. Because, there could be some room for, and I've had the codes pulled up, our previous definition of commercial vehicle said over 10,000 pounds. It was then changed to what it is today. So I think there was a lot of area, which I am so appreciative to staff, so thank you so much for updating. It's one of the things that drove this change. I do not want to open us up to a lawsuit when an attorney comes and says, hey, you know what, this could have been interpreted as being allowed. And now here we are. And now we're going to say you have to leave. I think after reviewing this a lot, there's a lot of counter argument to be made against this was never allowed, but I don't want to focus on that. What I want to focus on is a path forward for the residents. I think several things that I would like to see put in place, which I will wait until after comments, can address most of these concerns. And I guess I would like to hear what the residents have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner.
If I may just address a couple other questions or statements, just to clear up the record, please. So number one, that letter was sent back, I believe, in April. It was asked to be sent at that meeting. We sent that. I know several of the Board of Supervisor members were asked to withdraw that, and we've had several meetings since May where no member or the board president, Mr. Johnson, asked for that letter to be changed or rescinded from its current draft or its current format and substance. So since April till today, there's been no change, and there's probably been at least, because not only do we have our regular meetings, but we've had special meetings throughout the summer, and it never came up, and it was never even asked to be put on the agenda by any member. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. As for the 2019 letter, it was intended for those property owners who had been there prior to, I believe the code change was in 2018, and our board felt it was unfair to those individuals to be impacted by the change, and that's what it was. But what's being proposed now is very different, and that's why this board made the decision to send you the letter. And also, I am authorized as the executive director, as is Mr. Foy as district engineer, to speak on behalf of the district board if they take a position on something, whether it's here at Palm Beach County, at the state of Florida, or with other municipalities that neighbor us.
Thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. Is your board opposed to the changes being that have been presented by staff for the vehicles 16,000 pounds and less?
No, they did not specify that. Their main concern were heavy vehicles such as tractor trailers, things of that nature, because of the turn radius and the weights.
So I just want to clarify for the record. So there's no opposition to what staff is proposing to us regarding changes to the ULDC that would allow vehicles under 16,000 pounds?
No.
Okay. I know you showed a slide on the potential increases in costs and so forth. Do you have have you guys modeled it all or have any understanding of if in fact we were to move forward with allowing this semi-trucks or larger trucks, let's just call it vehicles larger than 16,000 pounds, what your expected increase in assessments are going to be?
No, we have not calculated that, but to give you an idea, about $25 per acre equals $1 million. So it would be substantial if we had to start rebuilding roads to a new standard and just maintaining. It would probably lead to at least a $25 or more an acre increase just on this issue.
And so that would be applied equally to people who didn't have vehicles?
Yes.
They would bear?
Yeah, it would be an inequitable burden among all taxpayers, and that's part of the issue that the board has, is how do we navigate this, because we cannot send individual invoices, or we don't have that statutory authority to do something like that, and we certainly don't have the resources to do it.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Weiss. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You may have a seat. We're going to proceed now on to comment cards. As you can imagine, there are numerous comment cards, and I am going to be generous in giving every person here 3 minutes. However, I think that we could probably do speak a lot more, and make a lot more purposeful speaking in less than 3 minutes. So we're going to start at this time. I am very, very serious about having everybody have the respectful time for their 3 minutes. Okay, go right ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. So I'll be calling off the names, and I would ask that you move to either one of the lecterns, and so that you're ready to go. So we'll be starting off with Teresa Perez, followed by Risa McCarrer, followed by William Jones, and followed by Debbie Vaughn.
Very good. Do we have those folks here? Very good. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Perez, and I stand before you today as a representative of the proud residents of Loxahatchee and the acreage. We chose to make our homes in this community because of its unique blend of rural and mixed-use charm. For years, we have run small businesses, kept animals, and relished the freedom from the park to our vehicles and to our home. These activities are more than conveniences. These are the fabric of our daily lives, a reflection of our heritage, and a source of immense pride for us all. It's vital to recognize that these practices have been an integral part of our community for decades without causing any significant issues. The historical context should weigh heavily on evaluating the impact on our neighborhood. Many residents, myself included, run small businesses from homes, contributing to the local community. Restricting these activities jeopardizes the livelihoods of our hardworking individuals who have invested in our community. While we understand that the need for responsible growth, it's crucial to find a balance that preserves the unique character that drew us to this community in the first place. Rather than strict prohibitions, we propose collaborative efforts to address concerns. We are willing to work with the county to find compromises that maintain our way of life while addressing valid concerns. I personally was born and raised in Palm Beach County, having lived in the rural areas my entire life. The attempt to impose code enforcement rules on the homes I've lived in takes me back. I come from a family with 5 generations rooted in the Loxahatchee and Acreage area. We all have businesses that will be directly impacted by proposed codes affecting vehicle size, trailer presence, and a number of vehicles on our land. My upbringing in the Acreage and Loxahatchee areas has been nothing short of amazing filled and experiences of witnessing beautiful wildlife and farm animals. These experiences are what make rural communities special. The very reason we choose our home locations was to have the freedom to decide what we do on our land, a tradition passed down by my elders. Imposing codes will not only affect my family, but the entire community that values its unique rural character. Imposing codes will not only affect my family, it's everybody in that community. We need to ensure that these rural areas continue to be sanctuaries for our wildlife. Cutting down trees and taking over the lands to accommodate regulations would jeopardize these valuable experiences and the habitats of our local wildlife. Instead of applying these regulations to long-standing rural areas like ours, I propose diverting them to the newer, larger developments with HOA structures. Communities such as Arden, Westlake, and the areas of North Lake Boulevard, with more uniform structures might be suited.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very
I
humble
have
for
a
your time.
question for you, ma'am.
Certainly.
Are you opposing or supporting what staff is recommending?
I'm supporting that we keep the larger vehicles, we keep the areas that we have residences in Loxahatchee and Acreage to have trailers.
I'll ask you again. Are you opposing what staff is recommending, or are you supporting that?
So I'm supporting the larger vehicles in Loxahatchee. I'm supporting the trailers to be in Loxahatchee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Risa McCarher, Heritage Farms. I'm here to oppose the decision. This is exactly what happened in Heritage Farms. It's the exact same situation. How can you open this back up, this can of worms? If you do, you're setting us up to have people come back to you from Heritage Farms and ask for the same treatment. They're going to want their vehicles in the AR. This is spot zoning. You're not accommodating for the taxes that these businesses would be paying in the correct zoned area. If they are in the commercial area, they pay an impact fee, they pay a special tax to have their trucks located in the correct area. It doesn't make sense, and I don't want my AR district where my wildlife and my rural lifestyle is going to be disturbed due to semi-tractor trailers. I mean, I want the toys, I want the buggies and the airboats and all those fun things. I think everybody wants that. No one's disputing that. But dump trucks and semi-tractor trailers don't belong in a neighborhood. You are taking away our property rights. You are infringing upon my lifestyle in a rural neighborhood. Please protect our rural lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Commissioner Baxter.
For clarification, I'd like the attorney to explain what spot zoning is.
Sure. Spot zoning is granting certain uses and allowances for a single or small amount of parcels to the detriment of the harmony of the overall scheme. It is generally, again, limited to basically one property or two properties within a larger area. And yeah, that's
Thank you. And Lisa, are we including Heritage Farms in this proposal?
Heritage Farms is included for the 2 vehicles up to 16,000 pounds, but not for the exception for the Ag Reserve. I mean, the ARRSA, not the Ag Reserve. There's no Ag Reserve at all in this agenda.
Let's not go there. Slip there. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Go ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
So it's William Jones, followed by Debbie Vaughn, followed by Rick Roth, and followed by Burgess. Does Burgess Hanson need to speak again?
No. No.
Thank you. Followed by, that's Shay Foy. That will be followed by Mary McNicholas.
If you'd like to, you could go ahead and just line up along the pathway here. That'd be very good. All right, go right ahead, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for holding this meeting. I have lived in the acreage for 31 years. It's a residential, agricultural zoned area. It needs to stay that way. In other words, I'm in favor of the new up to no more than 16,000 pounds. It's been a pleasant place to live, and I don't want any of these large trucks starting engines up at 4 o'clock in the morning next door to me, which has happened to some of my neighbors. Another one of the problems we've had is the roads are definitely way too narrow. I had one come in way into my swale, dig the swale all up, then he couldn't make it into the driveway, so he backed up, tore up the concrete on this. We have concrete sidewalks there in my area there. So it just doesn't work. The roads are way too narrow to make the radius into any of these private properties. As far as the weight goes, yes, we have garbage trucks. We have trailer trucks that make deliveries, but they go straight down the road, and they're not trying to turn and tear up the edges of the road. I do want to see a zoning regulation, if at all possible, to change the removal on lots being built of all the trees. I mean, I just went by a place on Orange Boulevard. They took out over 50 trees. I mean, there's just a massive mountain of mature pine trees. There's not a thing left on the whole lot. And I think that the county needs to address that, because with all the building going on, you know, we are all aware of the fact that we're planting trees all over the world to absorb carbon monoxide and whatnot. We should be doing our part. Most people have moved to the acreage for the country atmosphere to get away from the Fort Lauderdale and Miami atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Debbie Vaughn, followed by Rick Roth, followed by Mary McNicholas.
Good morning.
Good
I've been a
morning.
resident of the acreage for 30 years. 23 years I have been in my own business out there with a truck. I just can't tell you how imperative it is for income for a family to be able to have that, and the county provide that. I don't know where I would be without that income and freedom to have my own business. That was 23 years ago. Things have changed. I hope that you can have these people and come to a resolution to have 16,000 pounds and over on their property. Maybe have a special permit that they have to care for their own street, you know. It's just vital to these families to be able to have the income. I am with Sarah Baxter on that, most of it. I think it depends on the property value. Sometimes if it's not taken care of, or you have aged vehicles on the property and you have open container, then it just starts all over in a circle on some of these properties. The open container, it just brings the property value down. And I think that needs to be in your resolution, whatever you do. I don't believe that the easement is a part of the driveway into our properties. We own the top part where the culverts are. Also, second thing, real quick here, the hedge. This is the first time I heard that. I do believe that having it to be able to be 8 feet to 10 feet in the back is a hardship on the neighboring property because it canopies over into their yard. And my neighbor has one all along there, and I have to pay somebody $200 a month or so when it grows. Actually, I think Calusa should be outlawed because it just grows. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I hope you don't change that part of it on the hedge. Second, the RVs. A lot of the properties out there are having RVs, and let me back up a little bit. If you want a truck on your property and it goes through, I think that should qualify for 2 trailers because of the tonnage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative Roth, you're on.
Good morning, and boy, what a pleasure it is to be here today. I'm so thankful that the Commission is bringing this issue together. Thank you to Commissioner Baxter. I've been involved with these issues for over 1.5 years now. It's my concern that for good government, and I think this is a good government process that we're reviewing past changes in the ordinances and coming forward, hopefully with some mitigating changes. One of my favorite words is incremental. We've got to try to move forward, and if we can make some incremental changes, if we can have some provision for grandfathering, if we can have some provision that says you're allowed 1 or 2 vehicles, like you mentioned with a lessee or whatever. I have not reviewed the documents that were presented today. The only thing I have to say specific to that is that I hopefully can be very clear when we make these changes that there's no traps. One of the things I'm concerned about is that you talk about, well, you're allowed to do this, but if you're on a certain road and a certain access and certain this, so please, Commissioner, thank you for what you're doing. Please be very, very clear and specific so that people understand. We need certainty. We have people in the audience that have been calling me for 1.5 years, and they've been fighting this fight since 2019, and they don't know what their future is. We need government to give us certainty. I appreciate the idea of a grandfathering in, setting the date. The only comment I'll make about the comments made by Indian Trail is their position has changed because they're concerned about an increase in traffic, an increase in number of vehicles. And I think that's an issue that needs to be thought through, but it's my belief that by grandfathering in at a certain date, I think it was mentioned October, at an October board meeting to grandfather as of that date.
No, November.
The point is, yes, when you grandfather something in, then you're not worried about an increase. The only last thing I'll say as a farmer, I don't see a significant difference between vehicles. If a 52-foot long tractor trailer is empty and is parked on that property 1 or 2 days a week or a month or whatever, but is never coming into the property full, which it never is. Nobody that delivers goods and services takes the goods and services home. They deliver them first. So I think there's a little bit of extrapolation as to how bad this problem can be. And so my request is a good, reasonable compromise.
Thank you, Representative. Good to see you here.
Mary McNicholas, followed by Jorge Garcia, Stian Akasavic, followed by Sharon Waite.
As your name is called, come on right up to the podium. Good
morning,
morning,
Commissioners and staff. Mary McNicholas, and I am representing ITID with Jeffrey B. Slug and Associates right now. I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time. I just want to emphasize the issue here is that there's an unfunded mandate if in fact everything goes through here as represented. And staff has been great working with ITID. We so appreciate it. We've been trying to be good community partners. But in order to be able to accomplish everything as it's written, it's going to cost us a lot of money. And in essence, that's an unfunded mandate. I don't think any of you all would love that to be imposed upon you as well. I mean, I've heard your meetings, you don't, you know. So if in fact, you know, we can keep it, tone it down, help to try to, you know, work on this, that's great. Absolutely, as Burgess had said, anything over the 16,000 pounds is very, very, very complicated and unfunded mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. My name is Jorge Garcia. I live at 4360 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. I'm here today to address the board members, commissioners, mayor, and vice mayor. For the last 20 years, I own two separate properties side by side on the same street. I have two Isuzu of the box trucks that were referenced. Mine are actually open flatbeds, and I have two Ford F-250s. I've been running a fence company out of there for the last 20 years. And I've noticed that many years ago, I was not involved in this. I was pretty much neutral. There was a lot of fights between the old residents of Waxahachie and the acreage, et cetera, and the new developers coming in and buying out the orange groves and creating what is Westlake today, Arden, et cetera. I figured it was none of my business. It's their land. They have the right to sell it. Let them develop it. Let them move forward. Now, due to all this happening, they're trying to push me out of my land. Now they don't want people like me, working class, blue-collar people. I would like to give a shout out to the growers, the landscapers, the guy that has a pool cleaning company, the plumber, the electrician, the heavy equipment operator, the kitchen cabinet maker, the irrigation guy, the fence guy, the guy that does screen patios, shutters, the equestrian community, roofers, tree trimmers, framers, masons, carpenters, tile setters, HVAC guys, owner-operator truck drivers. We're all the ones that had been there for 20 years plus that now, due to these new HOAs, we're not well liked, we're not well received, we are being pushed out. And nothing changes as far as traffic, as far as capacity on the roads. All these vehicles have been here throughout the whole time that they developed and built Westlake for the last 4 years while they are doing Arden and sugar season, orange season. All these same people have been driving through there. There's a lot more impact in traffic due to the construction of the new HOAs than of the few dozen owner-operators that live in our area. Their impact is minute compared to the impact of the new construction that's being approved. That they're building 6, 7 homes per acre versus our 1 home per acre. They're using our roads, and it doesn't seem to bother anyone. That's okay. But if I take a truck home, that's automatically a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Waite. I live at 15058 75th Lane North. I've been in the acreage now 28 years, and it's odd. They're worried about all the damage to our roads and the weights and everything, yet we were driving along the other day, my friend and I, and we videotaped fully loaded dump trucks cutting through the acreage to go to their bigger developments. So that's where all the damage is coming from, these heavy trucks. Anybody I see that works locally, they live local, they come home with their work trucks empty. They've been working somewhere else all day. They didn't cut through our roads. It's the Avenir. It's all the North Lake Boulevard construction cutting through. And on top of that, if we push out all these home bases that this gentleman was just referring to, who will you all call when you need one of them? That's where they all work from, home. And I'm thinking, that's who I call. I look local, and you would too. You're not going to call somebody from Broward when you have a perfectly highly skilled person here. So I'm thinking, I am for all the trucks. The semis, I have never seen anybody do any damage to any of my roads. The only one I've ever seen cause problem was a FedEx guy flying through Temple Boulevard and nearly hitting me coming from North Lake. Nobody local ever did anything, as far as I know. I've not ever seen it, and I would never begrudge anyone a home business because that's how they feed their families. I have my own Mary Kay business. I work from home. And if I had a big truck and I needed that much product, I would need it, and I would use it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's a lot of makeup.
Good morning, sir.
Hello. I'm Stian Oksavic. I've lived in the acreage for 10 years now on 79th Court North. First off, I want to say thank you to staff and especially to Commissioner Baxter for the work so far in getting us a proposal and a compromise. I do have some concerns about how bureaucratic the last slide regarding permission for trucks over 16,000 pounds was, but I am a lot happier to see that proposal than to see nothing at all, so thank you. I did want to try to pick up on a few things that was said by the ITID representatives, because I find it very strange that they are so concerned about the costs that are assessed to us, the residents, as non-ad valorem taxes, and yet that concern does not seem to extend to the trucks that belong to people who don't live in our area, the trucks that are going into large developments, the trucks that are going to Westlake. I have nothing against those trucks, but I find it very odd that our roadways are discriminating based on whether or not the truck belongs to a resident or not. I would think any truck does similar damage. Likewise, they mentioned that horse trailers, RVs, buggies, those things were okay, but those trailers are just as long as a semi. It's incredible what you can pull behind a pickup truck these days, and I just do not understand how that would cause damage to a swale or a driveway or a culvert when, you know, I don't see the difference here between whether a vehicle is commercial or not as to whether it causes damage. I am very much in support of small businesses. I'm very much in support of people being allowed to have their toys, their RV, their boat trailer, whatever. And we've had this for decades. This is not a problem with the roads that suddenly surfaced in 2018 or 2019. And it honestly seems, from my layman point of view, to be mostly a non-issue. The final point I'd like to make on that is we have this supposed fiscal problem with maintaining the roads, and yet they can afford to go put in speed bumps, rumble strips, and safety devices that I'm not opposed to, but they seem to get a little excessive. I hear far more noise in my house from cars going over the rumble strips outside than I ever did from somebody starting a truck in the morning. So I find some of those points interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Looks like Kirk Longquist.
Kirk, come on up.
Rita Miller, followed by Alex Larson, follows by Antonio Ribeiro.
If you hear your name, come on up to the podium. Go right ahead. Good morning, Kirk.
Good morning, ma'am. I thought we all swore in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Burgess. I didn't want to be mean. But anyway, I oppose to all the rules that Palm Beach County opposes on us out in the acreage. Like people said, I grew up off of North Lake behind where you just Burma Road they were talking about. I grew up right there. Okay, so I've owned my land out there in the acreage. All unincorporated Palm Beach County. I had houses there. I moved out to the acreage so I could have my property, have what I want. But you all want to control everything. How many campers do we have? I can only have 3 recreational vehicles. You can only have this, you can only have that. If I wanted to move into a homeowners association, I would have done that, okay? That's how people want to live. I didn't want to live like that. And every time you all just make up new rules, then when you say something, well, it's our ball, we can do what we want with it. I didn't want to live like them people. I don't. But then you come up with, well, a trailer. A guy pulling a trailer could be a 10,000-pound trailer. As soon as it becomes a double axle, then when you start regulating a 1-ton truck, you know, 1 ton. But an F-150, if you look up the GFW, that's government gross weight it can tow. So a F-150, if it has a tow package, can be at 14. So you're just regulating. You don't want, oh, you can't have a truck. You can't have that. I don't want a Yugo or a electric car. I want a truck. And if I should have that truck, it shouldn't be your determination to tell me that I need to have that. I'm not looking for you guys to be my baby daddy. You know, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking, I pay my taxes, leave me alone, okay? I'm not done doing nothing illegal. But now you're trying to make it illegal. Oh, he has too many recreational vehicles. Oh my God. You know what? The nerve of him to go out and work every day and get what he wants. You know, and besides, Palm Beach County, you turn around, I don't know where you came up with this. In my taxes, it says Parks and Recreation, correct? But if I go use my boat that I want, you charge me a $10 fee if I don't go down and get the other thing. That's a user's tax. My kids are done with school. I don't think I should pay for it. Have the people that have kids in school pay for it. You know, that's a user's tax. You know, you guys just keep adding rules. Why don't it be easier if you just got a book out and just said, hey, this is how we want you to live. I did my 10 years in the service. I got good conduct medals, honorable discharge. You know what? I could do structure. Tell me exactly how you want me to live, what time I want to get up, what time I got to dress, and that. Or just leave us alone. That's what we moved there for.
Thank you, sir. You're taking time away. When you applaud, the time is started for this lady. Let's not do that out of respect. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Do I get 3 minutes?
No.
Or is my time going?
No. Proceed, please.
Lisa, when did we do managed growth? What was the year that managed growth was approved by the commissioners?
1999.
Okay, from 1999, the objectives, goals, and policies for exurban tier land use was established by public consensus. So the people of Palm Beach County decided what the zoning code, what the land use was going to be in this area. And so those rules were applied until recently. And now this change that has been made, it's made everything inconsistent, as you can see by the comments that are being made and the hardships that are being brought before you. So you have here arbitrary complaint-driven code enforcement. And as Representative Roth was saying, the rights of the people have been there all along and not caused a problem. And grandfathering in, I have to disagree, is not the solution, because when the land is sold, the rights to the land use end and would be under the new code. So you wouldn't retain the rights that they already have right now, or they did have that were changed. So as you make your decisions, please remember that the people have operated under the rights that were given to them by public consensus, set up under the comprehensive plan that are in the exurban tier policies. And those rights should be protected as much as possible. And Commissioner Baxter has explored, people have come to her to explore an overlay such as the Heritage Farms overlay, although the restrictions would not apply their restrictions would not apply to us. But please consider the lives and the area that you're dealing with is not an urban area. The rules do not apply equally. One size does not fit all in Palm Beach County, thank goodness. We've allowed for diversity and inclusiveness and sustainability in this area of Palm Beach County. It's very rare, and you're running out of places to live like this. So please treasure it and protect it rather than look for changes that restrict and diminish uses that have been there and have been granted by the people to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
What, excuse me, are you Rita Miller?
Yes.
Thank you. Alex Larson, followed by Antonio Rivero, followed by Yaelin.
Just 1 minute,
Go
ma'am.
ahead. Yaelin Perez, and then followed by Oscar Montoyo.
When your name is called, come on up to the podium. If you don't, that card's going to go away, and we'll call somebody else. All right? Okay. Good morning, ma'am.
How you doing, dear?
Good, good.
Nobody likes ma'am. You don't like me.
I know who you are.
But anyway, I'm Alex Larson, and I have been fighting this county for over 20 years. I disappeared for a little while, but I'm telling you, we in the acreage, the one thing we're guilty of, we live and let live and leave us alone. That has been the mantra of the people that live out there, because we try to stay under the radar. We don't want to be bothered. The ULDC is not an HOA document, and that's what it's turning into. We want pink mailboxes. We don't want mold on the roof. We don't want mold on the driveway. This is the evil path we're heading down. That's where we're going. We're nickeling and diming everybody to death because taxpayers are revenue generators. That's what we are. We provide the revenue and we spend it accordingly, as our elected officials do. And you know, Heritage Farms, I know Heritage Farms because I knew Rosa Durando. God, if anybody tried to save Heritage Farm, that woman tried to do it from 1959. And I know, God bless Rosa and Stella Rossi and the people that came before us. Because they did. They tried to balance environment, farms. You know, there's a group of people out there right now that would love to see the Arthur Marshall completely gone, 147,000 acres. Let's get rid of it. Yeah, who cares? The JW Corporate, let's get rid of that 60,000 acres. And the people are correct about the carrying of the loads. Because a dump truck, my husband used to say blackjack. 21 tons of aggregate in the back of the truck. That's what he wanted. But he didn't bring that dump truck home with 21 tons in it. It was empty if he came down the road. My truck, my Chevy, is the longest Chevy you can have. I can't back up into those swales that are, some of them are hills that are, you know, 15 feet deep. It depends on who built when. In my neighborhood, there's houses that are on a mountain, some even with the road. And it's a very hard dichotomy to try to put everything together. But the one thing about our area was it was unique. And they are. Westlake, Avenir, all of those guys, those dump trucks are running. Waypole comes from the farms out through Seminole Pratt and up Seminole Pratt to North Lake and over to the port. And they weigh a gazillion pounds. And I love the day when Waypole dropped all the molasses all the way from Seminole Pratt and Southern all the way up to North Lake. Cars were sliding all over the place. But they weigh a lot of weight. They do. I got Indian Trails idea, but I think we need to go back and look at that ULDC. It is not an HOA. It is a document for codes. You have your code violations, and anything that goes in there, sadly, it covers the entire county. So please take that into consideration. It is not a singular document.
Thank you so much. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I just want to address the concern about the damage on our roads and the acreage. Our damage on our roads and the acres is made by those builders that are building around us. They have trucks constantly going back and forth with big loads. The people that live in the acreage, they have dump trucks. They leave with empty dump trucks in the morning, and they come back home with empty dump trucks. So I can't see those trucks doing any damage on our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Elaine Perez, followed by Oscar Montoyo, followed by Rebecca Lopez, followed by Claire Doug.
Good morning, sir.
Frank Eddy, please stop this out-of-control development in the whole Palm Beach County. No more orange groves. We have to import oranges from South America. They're wiping up everything, these big developers. Stop it.
Sir, could you please state your name, sir?
Frank Eddy.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't call you.
Well, we just did.
He needs to fill out
Sir,
a card.
Representative Roth, this man has 3 minutes. Okay, next. Go ahead.
Elaine Perez, Oscar Montoyo, followed by Rebecca Lopez.
Are those folks here? Okay, their cards are you're Lopez? Come on up, Miss Lopez, please.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Lopez. I'm a resident of the Acreage for 3 years, so I'm a
Speak
newcomer.
right up to the microphone, Miss Lopez.
I've been a resident of the Acreage for 3 years, so I'm somewhat of a newcomer compared to other people here. I come from South Florida. I was born in South Florida, and I was born in Homestead. And I'm gonna get emotional, my God. Okay, so we used to have an area in Homestead called the Redlands, which isn't there anymore. It was like Loxahatchee, and the Acreage is now. And that's the reason why in the middle of COVID 3 years ago, in December, we moved to a beautiful oasis, which we now call home, which is the Acreage. The only local heavy vehicles that I see is a guy that somehow manages to drive the biggest tractor I've ever seen every morning down our street. And he does it every morning. He doesn't drive on any easements. He doesn't do anything. But the dump trucks, because I live on one of the only paved roads, the dump trucks that come through, there have been a couple other paved roads now in my area. The dump trucks that go to the new developments are constant. They don't go by any miles per hour. My dog has almost been run over by them. There's no, there aren't any speed bumps in my area. So people drive 50, 60 miles an hour, these dump trucks down our street. The delivery trucks that come, they pull over onto easements to make deliveries because they're pulling out of the road. The lawn guys, when they park, they pull over onto easements because they need to take their equipment off. So there's a lot more people pulling onto easements than the trucker that wants to park his semi-truck when he's trying to sleep at his house. So while I support small businesses on a routine, I use them on a routine basis. My pool guy owns a small business in the area. My auto repair guy owns a small business in the area. I have a 2-horse trailer, and it is difficult to navigate, and there are 8, 10-horse trailers out there. For the most part, those are in Loxahatchee, which are larger farms. We live on 1 to 2 acres in the acreage. So I can understand at that point it would be difficult for a larger truck to pull out, but maybe there's a solution where the damage can be special driveway made, that sort of thing. And I don't support a medium or larger business being run, but we really need to support the local businessmen who are just trying to survive.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. My name is Oscar. I want to ask if you can submit the video provided Renee. Something more. I had one survey due Both Morgan like 2 years ago. I don't know if you can put in the screen the survey, but I can read the result for this survey due next door. The 46% of the resident has some commercial vehicle in legal rules. Another 40% don't have that, but want the commercial vehicle. The result is the 90% of our community want our lifestyle and want the commercial vehicle, because I think he understands that is agriculture place and did not for war in that area. Only 5% of the result of the people live over there don't want the truck. Only 5%. The 90%. I don't know if someone want to see on the screen the survey. Please, so you can submit the video Renee do. And thank you. And I hope you help your community.
Thank you very much, sir.
What's your name?
Oscar Montoya.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. State your name, please.
My name is Claire Dougal from Loxahatchee.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning to everyone, the commissioners and members of different boards that are here. I'm here several times and I'm here again today. I'm here to ask the board to support us. I support parking the commercial vehicles on our properties. We've been in trucking business for 29 years and I've lived in Loxahatchee for 22 years. Family of 5 kids, that's our only source of income. So we would like to keep our lifestyle and we want to follow the rules. And we're not parking in the swale. That is not part of parking. So we would like to be able to keep our vehicles on our properties because it's hard for drivers, and drivers take home empty vehicles. They exit on the weekend and go to work. And the drivers who go to support their family, to take care of their families, are not out there to run race. That is our only source of living. And yes, I've had the Indian Trail dug up on my swale, hit my mailbox down, and they had to come out after a few calls and a visit to fix it. So I'm just saying, accident happens at times everywhere. But I've not seen where semi-trucks and dump trucks are destroying the roads or damaging the roads, because these are the same trucks that are used to haul the material to build houses, schools, which we have. And again, a lot of things that had happened in the recession, people had to be flexible to change from dump truck to long haulage. So I'm just in favor and asking for new codes or just to accommodate us, the farmers, the commercial people, the small business people, because that's our only source of income to live for our families. So I thank you here today, and we respect your decision.
Thank you so much, ma'am. If I could, okay, Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clear up a little bit of confusion that any board member may have or any member of the public may have on exactly what we're going to be voting on. I know there are people coming to the podium expressing their support for commercial vehicles. Some are saying they don't want commercial vehicles. But I'm wondering if we could have a 30-second refresher by staff as to exactly what we're going to be considering when it comes time to a vote, so that we all know, that I know, and that the members of the public who come to speak at the podium know exactly what we'll be voting on.
Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Amara, why don't you go ahead and go over it again exactly?
Sure. So these are the current regulations on this slide. And currently in the county, a property owner can only have one commercial vehicle, and that's up to 12,500 pounds. And that is regardless of your zoning. If you're a residential property, you can have one, and it's capped at 12,500 pounds. Now, if you have over 5 acres, you can have a home contractor's storage yard for it, but the bulk of the properties in the county that are residentially zoned, they can only have one. And the changes that are for proposal today are on this slide that will redefine commercial vehicles, will update the home occupation language in the code. For every residential zoning district other than ARRSA, they will still retain the cap of one business-related or commercial vehicle up to 12,500 pounds. In the ARRSA, which is agricultural residential zoning, in the ex-urban and rural tiers, such as Loxahatchee and the acreage, that would go and be an increase, which is proposed for 2, not 1, but 2 business-related or commercial vehicles up to 16,000 pounds. And then the other, we're proposing some modifications to fences and hedges to allow a little bit further additional height, and that's in the ARRSA as well. And then specifically for the acreage neighborhood plan, also called Loxahatchee, in some instances, we're proposing this slide here, which is allowing a path forward for those commercial vehicles parked on the property prior to August 30th, 2 vehicles greater than 16,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, and with other parameters that are on this slide. So that's exactly what's on the table, each of these items that are numbered and lettered here.
Did that help, Commissioner Martin?
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Amara, could you leave some of those up there so that if anybody has any questions, they can read it. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can you clarify, so the ARRSA, what areas are included in the ARRSA?
The ARRSA, and I do have a map. Let's see. If you see this slide, you see all of the peach and the green. That's north of Southern over here. Does the up in there? So it's Jupiter Farms area, Calusa, the acreage, Deer Run, all white fences, all of these neighborhoods over here. This is the ARRSA. Now, all of that area would get 2 vehicles up to 16,000 pounds, and only the peach area here, which is the acreage, would be able to have that exception for over 16,000 pounds.
What about those areas to the south?
Oh, yes. Lest I forget, Heritage Farms. Heritage Farms and Homeland would also be ARRSA as well. All of the green in this part, this is AR zoning, but it's not in the rural service area, so it wouldn't apply to all of this. And it theoretically, I think that's owned by South Florida Water Management District over there. And this is in the urban service area out in the Glades. This wouldn't apply to them either. But Heritage Farms and Jupiter Farms, Calusa, the acreage would be up to 2 vehicles up to 16,000 pounds.
So there's an area off of, I want to say Lake Worth Road in 441?
Yeah, this is Heritage Farms right here.
But further north than, because they're at...
And Homeland there. And then there are some rural enclaves in this area, such as Seminole Ranches, but they're inside the urban-suburban tier, so they wouldn't be able to get the 2 vehicles up to 16,000 pounds. We divided it by the rural and ex-urban tier versus the urban-suburban.
And then I was going to say in District, I want to say it's District 3, there was that, we just did an overlay.
Biltmore Terrace?
Biltmore.
Yes, they wouldn't be, we didn't include them in the ARRSA up to 2 commercial vehicles. They would be able to have the 1 vehicle up to 12,500 pounds. And of course, if they had an agricultural classification with the property appraiser, they'd be able to have a larger vehicle.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all my questions.
Okay, and we'll leave some of those changes right up there. Commercial vehicle, yeah, that's very good. Thank you, Ms. Amara.
You ready?
All right, moving right along. When you hear your name, come on right up to the podium.
Joaquin Taylor, followed by Darwin, Damian Taylor, followed by Michael Babington, followed by Renee Hamilton.
Very good. Good morning, sir. State your name, please.
Good morning, commissioners and everybody else here. My name is Joshua Taylor, and I'm just saying, as that lady, everyone previously pretty much said what's going on, so just save the acreage. You know, I'm a Rastafarian, and a few Rastafarians I know live out there. That place is designed for, you know, a certain kind of living, and we just want to keep it like that. I'm just keeping it brief, and hopefully y'all listen to us as the small man and consider us. I know it's a hard, you know, there's a lot of people that try to bring satisfaction. I want to thank Commissioner Baxter and Commissioner Barrett for hearing us out privately. And, you know, it's a hard decision, but have the small people in mind. And for the satisfaction, I know that's the county's motto. So think about the satisfaction, and as much as you can, try to satisfy everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Michal Babington. I'm involved with the equestrian world, and I live in the acreage. And they're just talking about commercial vehicles. Like, I'm one of these drivers that brings supplies in and out. And these farms, I can only talk for the equestrian people. But the thing is, they say it's small trailers, big trailers. But the reason why a lot of them move to Loxahatchee, because they can't afford Wellington. Now, the equestrian world to this area in Palm Beach County, including racehorses and everything else, is over 100 million a year. Now, a lot of these people that move to Loxahatchee and different, but a lot of them have commercial vehicles now because they bring their own hay in a regular 53-foot trailer that holds anything up to 40,000 pounds. Now, also being a driver, commercial driver, I can only spend so many days on the road. I have to take time off. It's an average of 2 days. And I bring home a commercial vehicle, like a lot of the people are talking about the vehicles. 99% of the vehicles that come into Loxahatchee that people live, I know they're empty. So I have to park for 2 days or home. Now, if I can't do that, I don't have a job. That's only me. Now, also the gentleman that was here, the first one to speak, the Indian, whatever you call it, the roads. Show me a road in any state all over America. Which some of the road, he chose one patch where the blacktop, sorry, is gone. We call it tar in Ireland, sorry. The blacktop is gone all over America. If I had to pick the worst place that I've driven this year alone, I put Long Island as one of the worst road system in America. And that's all I have to say, and thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next.
Hi,
Madam Mayor.
I'm Renee Hamilton. I live off of Temple Boulevard, and one of the things I'd like to say real quickly is that we're missing the fact that although some people are here to support the trucks, one of the things that you're imposing with what you're recommending to vote on today is to give us a lot of rules and to have this exception, and we cannot necessarily comply with those rules. One of them was an 80-foot way, and those roads are not 80 foot wide, so we already can't comply. So you're suggesting for a path forward that doesn't even allow us to have what we need. But I'm out of time because I have something that I want to have presented. I've presented a video, and I would like that to be shown, please.
Oh, ma'am, in order to present a video, you'd have to give it to us beforehand.
I did. It had
already
been
did.
submitted in advance.
Okay, I see the attorney over here, and there are, or at least are right. Are we ready to set for it? Let it roll. On to the next one. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, let's try again. It looks like Darman Taylor, Natalia Melion.
Come on up.
Yalen Perez.
The other folks who are mentioned, come on up, or we'll call some other cards. No, just 1 minute, sir. Why don't you call some other cards, Commissioner? That's it? Very good. Sir, if you have a question, you have to fill out a card.
No, we don't take them after we started.
Okay, that's okay. Let's hear from the young lady. Go right
My
ahead.
name is
Good morning.
Natalia Melian, 16139 East Pleasure Drive. I am here today worried about what our future will look like. It's been 5 years since this problem started for me and my family. All I am asking for is a path forward from our commissioners. We, the people out in Loxahatchee, are hurting and in fear of not knowing what to do, since many of us are incurring violations and paying fines. We ask that you please find a path forward and keep our small multi-generational family businesses running, as having to remove my vehicles would mean the end of my business. There are no places for us to go in Palm Beach County nor in the state. Please find a solution for your constituents. Just because this was being ignored for decades doesn't mean it's okay to come in and change the lifestyle of so many residents whose livelihoods depend on it. Palm Beach County consists of 2,400 square miles, and we are asking you to allow 90 square miles of Loxahatchee to have the rights to use their property to park vehicles. It's only 3% of Palm Beach County that we are asking for allowance. ITID keeps coming back with different opinions every time. Garbage trucks, delivery trucks come in and out of our area loaded. Our trucks are coming in empty. It's common sense where the damage is coming from. I personally got an Indian Trail to pull a permit for my property to cover my culvert and extend my driveway to be able to bring my truck inside without touching any of the easements or swales. Dear commissioners, please take the time and take us into consideration. We are the same residents who have been out here for the past 5 years asking for help. Please don't put me out of business. I have 2 kids and I've lived in Palm Beach County. All my family is out here. I don't want to have to move. I don't have anywhere else to go. You're going to put me out of business if I have to take my trucks out. I'm the same person that's been standing here since 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
All right. Let's
Thank
see.
you. Now, there are some cards. I
So
appreciate it.
I'll make one more call. Elaine Perez, Darwin Taylor. Elaine, last 4 digits of your number, 5879.
Okay.
Darwin, 2927, if I got the name wrong. If you're not, we're moving on. Okay. We have non-speaking cards. Anthony Dugal. I support truckers, farmers, and small business owners. We need to be able to park on vehicle, truck on property. Truck is on our only source of income. I can't read that. Vivian Keller, she supports, as a resident in the acreage since 1998, I have seen a community thrive by allowing residents to have the livestock, vehicles, et cetera, needed to support their businesses and families. I'm especially concerned with the limit on fence heights and hedges. Homeowners as high hedges to maintain our little private slice of country. 4 feet is too low, and no clue as to why higher hedge not okay. John Ashby, I wish to support commercial trucks parking in Loxahatchee and to support small business to keep our way of life, and it was as it was when I moved there 21 years ago, as long as we keep it quiet and clean and neat to respect our residents. Carlos Fiore, any new ordinance should not restrict on the way of life we've had in the area for decades. I invested in my life savings on this property, and I will live to stay in it and enjoy it the way it has been for many years. Bill Miller opposes. He does not wish to speak. Willie Harp supports small business men and women should be allowed to park 3 to 4 dump trucks and tractor trailer trucks on their property. Jennifer Romo doesn't say anything. She does not wish to speak. Sandeep Pallavi, I do not wish to speak. Does not have anything indicated. Marisol Olivens, fixed code allowed trucks, supports. Eric, looks like Ferret, opposes. He does not wish to speak. Karen Gorman opposes, does not wish to speak. Ricardo Alonso, my small business is is something I cannot afford to put my truck anywhere else. This will put me out of business. My family and I need a path forward. Please help us, commissioners. Your constituents are desperate. Last card, Carlos Rosales. All right, let's see if I can do this. You read it.
Oh, thanks. This is in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to ask Mr. Rosales, Carlos Rosales, that we'd have to have somebody to translate it properly from Spanish to English. Could you do that? Okay, state your name and state the gentleman's name.
Buenos días. Mi nombre.
See, are you Carlos Rosales, sir?
Yes.
See? Okay, yes. Go ahead and
My
translate.
name is Natalia Milian, and this is Carlos Rosales.
Yes. Mi nombre es Carlos Rosales, vivo en 15782 94 Street North.
He stated his name and that he lives off 15782 94th Street North.
Quería decir muchas cosas de mi problema particular, pero tengo 3 minutos que mejor.
He wanted to say more about his personal problems, but he only has 3 minutes, so he's going to talk briefly of everything that's going on.
Me explicaron que estaban exponiendo que los camiones de nosotros rompen las carreteras.
He was told that we're breaking the roads.
Los otros camiones que circulan de tantas compañías no rompen la carretera.
So that means that all the other vehicles coming in and out of our roads are not breaking the roads.
Pero tantos años atrás eran las mismas carreteras y no se rompían.
But decades ago, it was the same roads, yet they were not being damaged. Now it's all of a sudden they are.
Millones de camiones circulan por la autopista 10, 27, 95.
Millions of trucks go throughout all our roads.
Y no se rompen.
And they do not break.
Entonces deben darle el contrato a las compañías que hacen las carreteras en los Sahachi, que la construyan tan fuerte como el 10, el 27 y el 95.
So if the case is that the roads are breaking because of regular traffic, then they should be up to standard as the same highways 10, 94, 75.
Nosotros pagamos miles de dólares en taxes.
We pay millions of dollars in taxes.
Pero aparte nos pusieron a pagar $200 por 20 años por esas carreteras.
And on top of that, we're paying $200, $200 por año.
Por cada año, por 20 años.
$200 per year for 20 years for our roads.
Carreteras que pagamos y los camiones de nosotros no pueden circular.
Roads that we pay for, yet our trucks cannot circulate.
Porque la rompen.
Because they break.
Solo quiero decirle a todos de los Sahachi que estamos aquí y los que no pudieron venir porque están trabajando.
I just want to tell everybody from Loxahatchee that is here and that couldn't make it here.
Cuando tenemos tantos problemas que nos invaden,
when we have so many problems that are affecting us,
y no tenemos el conocimiento para defendernos,
and we don't have the knowledge to defend ourselves,
confiemos en Dios,
we trust God,
que suele dar dulces salidas a muchas amargas dificultades.
That gives very sweet solutions to very bad situations.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on with Commissioner Baxter. Do not take away your time. Go ahead, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't tell staff thank you enough. This has been going on a year now, and we have worked on compromise at this board. I want to thank my fellow commissioners, mayor, vice mayor, for coming up with a lot of compromises and a middle ground. I think there's a fundamental belief that I personally have, and I moved to the acreage myself because I like freedom. But, you know, I also recognize, I think it is a residential area, and so we also want to allow people to live peacefully. And so coming up with these compromises was very significant. Truckers have been in the acreage for decades. I think legally the county may or may not want to address that, but I think anyone like myself I'm second generation Palm Beach County, who's been here long enough, we've known it. So I can't, again, thank you enough for this. There are several, what you are proposing is actually for, I would say 98% of it, if not more, amazing. I do have some concerns. I do have the waiver concern, the type 2 waiver, because with the type 2 waiver, I believe it's $5,900 to come before this board for BCC approval. I think that is a bit excessive and bureaucratic, and an undue burden to residents. So that is one thing I would like to remove. Additionally, to come into compliance, there's something I would like to address to help with swales and roads not being as wide. And I have spoke with Scott, and the term is escaping me, but it is an FDOT term standard, and I believe it was 24 feet. Scott, if you would.
What's up, Scott Cantor, Director of Land Development. That was the FDOT Design Standards Manual 214 for driveways. But this is specific to the driveway, and it's what we follow for our engineering standards and our design standards manual. And for residential, it would be 24 feet max.
So in our existing code, if my commissioners would like, fellow commissioners would like to follow along, I believe it is in it's in the backup under E5, Exhibit 5, page E5. And it is in regards to access. I had a hard time interpreting this, and in the essence of making this a simple process for our residents and one we can understand so we do not run into this problem in the future, you know, it relates to a turning radius, an ingress and egress, a maneuvering within, without, demonstrating, and using a program that again costs thousands of dollars. So I am going to suggest the 24-foot width minimum for the driveway instead of that, something that is very, I don't know, just convoluted, bureaucratic, however we would like to label that, but I just think it would be hard for residents to really come into compliance with that. So type 2 waiver, the turning radius, I think is having a wide enough driveway will solve the majority. Requiring that minimum requirement will solve the majority of those issues. We had a term that said legal parking space. And I was concerned because in county code, legal parking space to me is a curb and pavement and lines. So I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that we mean their property and that they can legally be on that property as far as a legal parking space goes. And I believe, and the only other, the last thing that I wanted to address, I mean, we have set so many things in place. We have limited operating hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. so people can live and not have to deal with loud, noisy trucks starting up all night long, coming and going. We have, within this already, addressed that. We do not want the refrigerant or reefer units running all night long because they are extremely loud and people live next to each other. And so thank you for addressing that, staff, already. I just think that was a huge part of, you know, people not wanting to be woken up at all hours. Understanding that these aren't 5 acres. We are very close to each other. That was a huge for me. I believe most of the road damage is actually not coming from empty semi-trucks. That is, common sense doesn't tell me that is the case. And I believe we are here to support residents and small business owners and a way of life, a very special way of life out there. And I loved in our definitions that we have defined it by different areas and districts and where these can apply, the up to 16,000, but specifically for over 16,000, it is only in, if you look at Exhibit 4, The only exception is in the acreage neighborhood planning area. That's it. Nowhere else would be affected by allowing to over 16,000 pounds in the entire Palm Beach County. And this is me wanting to protect, again, our special area. And I really don't want to put a date on that because it is so amazing. I would really like to see us, you know, not just, you said we couldn't grandfather, but I don't really want a date. After we've added driveway widths, after we've added operating hours, after we've added all the stipulations to come into compliance, why are we going to take away these freedoms of allowing a small business that supports our economy and their families and stop that? I mean, if they sell their house, what do we say? When the last one sells, it's all gone? I really like that. So with those, and I can list it, I would like to make the motion to approve staff recommendations for item 13 with the removal of the waiver, with adding the 24-foot minimum requirement for the driveway, and eliminating, a date. All the other things were already in there. This is, I think, very important to our residents.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner. We have that motion. And before we move on that, I'd like to hear some other comments from the other commissioners. Do we have a? We have a second.
You have a second.
We have a second from Commissioner Woodward, but I think she also has some. Sure.
So my motion is to approve all of the staff recommendations in 13. So all the things already included, the timing, all those parameters have been put in place. The only thing I'm asking to change are the elimination of the waiver 2, so they don't have to come in front of the board, which would make it an administrative approval, as long as, they also meet the 24-foot minimum requirement of the width for the driveway, instead of the maneuverability program. That's what I was talking about on Exhibit 5. And then lastly, just removing that date that they would come in. I would like, if we are making it this restrictive, just to allow it. I don't want to limit it to just a specific date.
Okay. We have a second from Commissioner Woodward, but you would also, did you want to say anything as well? Go right ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I did second that because one of my concerns was I know we're not grandfathering, but using that term, because I don't want it to get to a situation where, there's like a 2-tier, us, them, we were here first, or whatever. So, and this is meant for owner operators. So the administrative process would mean that they do prove that they live there and it's their trucks and it's 2 trucks, right? I'm looking for clarity.
Okay, so essentially the motion would remove all of the items with the parens on this summary. This isn't the exact language, but it's a summary. So it would keep the requirement for a home-based business, but not require that they be operating and have the vehicles prior to the August 30th. It would remove the deadline for applying. It would remove a type 2 waiver and allow any site, regardless of the access, to have administrative approval. And it would change the analysis of the turning radius to just a flat 24-foot. So all of the parens items would either be, the top 3 parens items would be removed, and the last one would be replaced under D1. That would be replaced with a flat 24-foot. So that's the motion on the floor.
Okay, and everything under 16,000, that's the peach-colored areas that you showed. 16,000,
it would stay as is. That is in the AR, RSA, would be 2 vehicles up to 16,000. This is the motion is for changing the exception area for the acreage on this slide.
Hi. Thank you very much, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank staff. I know we asked you all to do a lot, so thank you for doing that. And I was okay with some of the things that you're requesting, Commissioner Baxter. But the elimination of the date, I can't accept. That would not be something I can support. I have, and I do appreciate folks from ITID being here, the unfunded mandate, because that's what, in fact, this would be for them, is an unfunded mandate, that they, and you and the folks that live out in Loxahatchee and the acreage will be responsible for paying for what's going to, how these roads are going to be impacted. But quite frankly, we know that there are, almost 16,000 parcels out there. And by opening this up to all 16,000 parcels with 2 semi-trucks on each parcel, that's 32,000 trucks out there, semi-trucks, and that to me is not acceptable. And so I'm happy with coming up with the 16,000. I'm good with everything else, but I can't support the semi-trucks, and I can't support semi-trucks being on every property.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. And Commissioner Bernard, and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for me, Commissioner Baxter, I support everything except the date, the grandfather date, and so I'd love to hear from the rest of the commissioners to see how we can figure out how to navigate this. All those suggestions that you've proposed, I support, but I'm having a hard time allowing this for every home in the future. So I just would like to figure out how we can navigate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marino?
Thank you. I am comfortable with the up to 16,000 pounds. That's where I stopped when I went through all of this. And I took pages and pages and pages of notes today. Lots of things I want to say, but I do not support removing the date at all, because same thing that the Commissioner Weiss said, we would be opening this up to many more vehicles. Commissioner Baxter also earlier stated something about legal and how we'd be opening ourselves up. I also look at this and say, how are we being disproportionate to those that are out there that don't have commercial vehicles, when we are looking at 15,000 parcels and maybe looking at 300 parcels that will have tractor trailers. The term tractor trailer and commercial vehicles have seemed to have been interchangeable today. I am comfortable with up to 16,000 pounds, and those still could be commercial vehicles if it's a home-based business. But anything over that, I'm not comfortable with. Thank you.
If no one else is in, Commissioner Barnett, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Commissioner Weiss, Commissioner Marino, and Commissioner Bernard. The changes that you were recommending, Commissioner Baxter, with regards to the waiver and the 24 minimum width for the driveway, but not with the date specific. I think I could absolutely support this if you withdrew that request. Otherwise, I would make a substitute motion to approve permission to advertise for first reading of an ordinance at the Bcc Zoning hearing on January 25th, 2024, with all of the exceptions that you requested, except for the date provision.
And if I may, I have something to say about it. I think this country, oh, you have a motion, you have a substitute motion. I think what we're looking for, as Commissioner Bernard said, is a way around this, and a way that we can put it together into one motion that we can all support. So if necessary, do we need a second on the substitute motion at this time? Is there a second on the substitute motion as proposed by Commissioner Barnett?
I'll second it, but I'd love to hear from Commissioner Baxter to see how we can, bring this, since this is an item that's important to you.
If I could just say something before we, from here, do we have a second to the motion? Okay, good. Is that I think that part of the beauty of this county is that we have diversity. And the diversity in the acreage is something that is impressive. I like it. I like people who like to live on their own land and do what they want with their land. And as anyone who lives in an agricultural residential area knows, that your freedom goes as far as your neighbor's fence. Your dogs get out, your horses get out, your chickens get out. You got to take care of your neighbor, and your neighbor takes care of you. I like small businesses. I think the country was built on small business. I agree with the changes as proposed by the district commissioner. I disagree with removing the August 30th, August 30th, 2023 date, because if you have a home-based business and you're on a couple of acres, let's say you have an equestrian business and you want to sell that business, your property value goes down if you can't sell that business along with the ability to use horse trailers. And I think that folks bought out in the acreage because they like the lifestyle and they would sell to someone who loves that same lifestyle. So now we're limiting the use of that land to prospective buyers. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's just. I think that if you buy land, you use the land for a home-based business, then the business that you have on that land runs with the land. It's a legal term. It runs with the land. If you have an equestrian business on there or whatever type of small business, I've heard from some of the folks here, whom I respect, to come out and speak about it, you want to sell that land with that business. You won't be able to if you're limited by this provision. I don't see any reason, any compelling reason, to stop at August 30th, 2023. I don't see any compelling reason to limit the uses of that land based on this administrative date. So I like to see businesses in this county, in this state, in this country prosper. And I think that the type of business that people have on their land, they use it properly, and you will, because your neighbor won't like it if you ruin those roads or mess up their land based on what your misuse of your business is. You got a home-based business, you're all neighbors together, you need to get along, and I think you have up to now. So I am in favor of what the district commissioner, Commissioner Baxter, has proposed without any of these restrictions on the date, because we're limiting a person's ability to have that value on their land and to sell it to someone else who may want to have the same home-based business. Now they won't be able to. So it diminishes the value of their land. I don't see any compelling reason to do that. If someone has a compelling reason to do that, I'd like to hear it. Up to now, I haven't. And so for that reason, I would go along with what Commissioner Baxter has proposed. It seems like she's listened to what the people want in her district, and the staff has worked very hard to make these exceptions. They have been approved by the people who live there, approved by their district commissioner, and I support that. So I think the next slide was Commissioner Baxter, and then Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Marino. You're recognized, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. It means a lot. I have I believe, a compromise. What I hear from a couple of my fellow commissioners is they're concerned about future use. The date seems to be the issue. I would say there's this fear of opening floodgates for everyone to want to move into the acreage if this exemption exists. And so I guess the compromise I would like to see, so I'm going to make a substitute motion. And instead of eliminating the date altogether, put in a pilot program of 1 year. I would like to see if we didn't have this, if it opened it up, and that, let's see in 1 year, how many people, if it's allowed, actually move into the area. I think that would be a great way for us to get some information and then revisit it to see if that, because obviously we do not have the support to eliminate the date altogether, but I think this would be a good balance between what has been proposed and eliminating the date altogether. So my substitute motion just switches out the last, instead of removing the date altogether, we would do a pilot program of 1 year and revisit it and see how many people moved out there and applied for approval with their semi-truck.
Do we have a second to the substitute motion? Seeing none, Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. We vote on a lot of stuff on this board, and we're county commissioners, and oftentimes we, as a board, we don't always listen to the district commissioner because it's a big overarching issue. This is one I do believe we should be listening to the district commissioner on. This is a small area in the county. It's a very specific area. The residents have come out, they've spoken. I've received numerous emails. I believe one that didn't want to approve this, with over 100 that were asking for this. I don't like the date simply because if we're gonna do this for an area, then it should be the property of this area. This is what it is. And this is what they're asking for. We are still limiting it to 2 trucks. We're still going to have an administrative approval where they have to come to us, even though I agree with the gentleman who spoke with the property rights. I don't like even this much of it. But if this is what it takes to get this across the line to allow trucks here, then this is what I would support. And they still would need to come to our staff to work through this to make sure everything is going to be above board and they're good neighbors. And I believe that everyone in this community wants to be a good neighbor. I think this is one of the times where it is important to listen to the district commissioner, to listen to the people. I don't like the date, like you said. Even selling this in the future, it changes everything. If you're here before this date or after this date, we throw years out there when what happened before 2019, what was before this. This is 2023, we're voting on this. And then we're gonna have this magical date of August 30th, 2023. If you were here before, you can do this. If you're here after, too bad, so sad. People can't help when they're born, they can't help where they are in this world at the moment. And if they want to come here for this reason, I don't think it's on us to put, allow it here, and then as soon as they sell, it can never be done again. Like you said, as soon as the last property is sold, that's it. This is all over. And we're talking about, what was it, 90 square miles? It's a limited area. I don't think that we should have a date on it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Marino, Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you. I'm not in favor of this. And everybody from Miami-Dade and Broward will be, because they can't find a place down there, will be in the acreage within the next year. Please, I have the microphone. You all have had your chance to speak. I am, as I said, I am comfortable with the 16,000 pounds. Again, a commercial business and a home-based business, if you're having a home-based business and you have a vehicle that's 16,000 pounds and you do air conditioning, you do plumbing, I have nothing, absolutely nothing against that. I have been a small business owner my entire adult life. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. It was that simple. I am good up to the 16,000 pounds. You absolutely lost me when you took out the date. I wasn't comfortable with even having a date, with even grandfathering this in, because whether a business runs with the land or not, I think that would be a legal question, not one determined by us up here. But I can't support this. I can support up to 16,000 pounds, but I can't support this.
Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So what I'm thinking is there a way for us to grandfather the people who currently live there right now, however, to do a type 2 waiver, if I'm correct, to do the type 2 waiver for future folks who would buy in the future?
Yeah, to some extent, that's what we did with landscape service. When there was a change to the code, there was a window of opportunity for folks that had owned and operated their business, had the administrative, more straightforward route. And what it did is it required a different type of approval for the new people coming in. So it essentially somewhat grandfathered or allowed an easier path forward for the residents that already owned and operated. And the reason that staff, and we had this discussion from the board of the August 30th date, because there's 2 points of view. If you want to allow the semi-trucks, do you want to allow it only for the folks that are in the room now who own property now, who say they have their business now? Or do you want to open it up to prospective property owners that don't live here yet? So that's where that date came from. So with landscape service, they chose a date. They had a window of 6 months or a year, and it was the folks that already were here, they already owned the property, they already had the business, had the administrative approval, and there was a different type, I can't remember, I think it was a Class A approval with landscape service for any new businesses coming in. And that was a way to keep a distinction between the folks that were here and the grandfathering-esque type of situation versus new folks coming in. And I think the philosophy was to ensure that, again, you know, the fear that people have about the floodgates being open and all of a sudden the character changes for the area because everybody on a single street has 2 vehicles. So that is a possibility if the board chose.
So for me right now, like, since this is it first reading?
It's permission.
If it's
permission to advertise, so we have to be back in January 25th.
So right now, Commissioner Baxter, I could support removing the date for right now, but I'd love for us to figure out a way, if we can come up with some way, a path forward where the people who live right now can have it. And then for the future residents if it's some other way that we can work between now and January 25th. That's my compromise.
So does that mean you remove your motion?
I don't have a motion.
Well, or there was another, you seconded.
To make it clear, could the clerk tell us, I believe we have 2 or 3?
We have 1. It's a pilot.
Because we didn't get a second on
Currently
the
have
third.
a substitute motion on the table.
So
Yeah, we never asked if anyone.
So I'll make a substitute motion, which is to accept basically the motion, Commissioner Baxter's motion, and also to work with staff to come up with a way to grandfather the folks who currently owns right now, and for us to create a path forward for future residents if it's a different type of approval.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can we please have the clerk clarify? I believe we have a substitute motion.
But it wasn't seconded.
Well, that was not seconded.
It was seconded, but we still have a substitute.
Okay, so let's just stop for a minute.
I didn't hear if the mayor had.
Now, if I either going to hear from the clerk or from the attorney, let's hear from the attorney. Go right ahead, sir.
And I'll let the clerk correct me.
Okay, here we go.
There was an initial motion by Commissioner Baxter, and there was a substitute motion which was seconded by Commissioner Barnett. Commissioner Baxter then made a third substitute motion which was not seconded.
Correct.
Which means that there would only be 2 substitute motions on the floor, and then Commissioner Bernard's would be the third.
All right, could you read, did the clerk record these motions? Okay, very good. Would everybody like to hear what the motions are right now? Yes, please. Okay, very good. Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. Go right ahead and read the first motion. I believe that was done by Commissioner Baxter. Then we'll go to you, Commissioner. Go ahead, Bernard.
Madam Mayor, since if the substitute motion is seconded, then all the other motions die. So do we have can we?
Your motion would be on the floor.
Yes.
Was it seconded? I didn't.
Okay, do we have a second to the substitute motion by Commissioner Bernard?
Do we have?
No. Yes, we do. Okay, good. We have a second. All right, so it's alive. All right, so now what we're going to do, Mr. Attorney, is do we vote now on the last substitute motion by Commissioner Bernard?
Yes, you actually can't have any more substitutes, so the decision has to be made at this point.
This is a necessary one. However, Commissioner Weiss has had his light lit. Did you want to speak now,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiss?
Yep.
All right, go right ahead.
So I am with Commissioner Marino on this. I simply cannot, I can't approve that. I will, that's just where it is.
Very good. All right, then let's go ahead and proceed with your authority, Mr. Attorney. Can we go ahead and vote on Commissioner Bernard's third motion that has been seconded at this time?
You're ready to vote, but if there's commissioner comments, now would be the appropriate.
Okay, so let's hear the commissioner comments. I believe, and I don't know which one was first, so girls are first, Commissioner Marino, and then Commissioner Barnett. Please, go right ahead.
I just want to hear what the actual, we've made so many, I would like to hear what the actual motion is that we are voting on.
Very good.
And that's what I was going to ask. So.
Very good. Thank you. That's good. All right. So if we could have the clerk read us the last motion that was moved by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Woodward, and we're about to vote. If you could read it, please.
So the motion on the table at the moment is going to be the removal of the waiver to come to the board to add the 24-foot minimum requirement for the driveway width and to add the pilot program of 1 year. And Bernard wants to work with staff for future.
Okay, so there may be some issues with that, so maybe we should have Commissioner Bernard do it again, carefully.
Okay, so
go right ahead, Commissioner Bernard.
The motion is the permission to advertise and to accept the staff's proposal to us and adding the removal of type, is it the type 2 waiver? The 20-foot minimum? And also to remove, am I missing something?
24-foot minimum.
Yeah, the 24-foot minimum, and also to remove the date.
Oh, I thought you were saying that those property owners that owned and operated through August 30th had the administrative approval process with no type 2 waiver, but staff would continue to work on language to propose an alternate approval process for those property owners that don't own and operate by the 30th.
That works. All right.
The only thing we forgot was to remove, we're swapping out the 24 width minimum with, and removing the maneuverability.
Yes, removing the maneuverability analysis under the access requirements and replacing it with the 24-foot width.
And Madam Mayor, I just have one more question.
Could you just put your, okay, very good, so we can hear you. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Real quick, Lisa, and I know I'm kind of throwing this in last minute. Did we address, how do the fines get addressed with this?
Fines?
Yeah, so if they come into compliance?
Oh, that would be a separate, I think that would be a separate motion, because this is just for permission to advertise for the ULDC, but you could definitely discuss fines.
Well, I think what you did with the landscapers, where if they came into compliance, then weren't they eliminated?
Was that in the code language, Wendy, or that was separate?
That was all done separately.
Okay.
It was just a question I didn't want to.
I would like to, if we're going to address that, I think let's do it at the January 20th.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that. Mr. Ritter, did you have something to say?
I did want to clarify the point Commissioner Bernard touched on. If you can, we can give you a couple paths forward now that we do have a structure for how properties can become legal in this regard. We can address how to handle the fines for those that are becoming legal and those that might not have the opportunity to do so as well. So we can bring that back in January.
In January, at the January hearing. Okay. Before we, Ms. Amara, could somebody read it again so that we know exactly what we are going to vote on? Go right ahead.
Okay, the motion, the substitute motion would be to approve staff recommended permission to advertise for the January 25th meeting to, and the changes would be to, for the exception for the acreage neighborhood plan area, those are the only changes that are part of this motion, is to keep the administrative approval process for those property owners that own the home-based business prior to August 30th with no requirement for a type 2 waiver. For those property owners after that date, staff would work on a proposal to come up with an approval process for those subsequent property owners, and to replace the turning radius analysis under access with a 24-foot flat requirement.
Okay.
Yes,
please,
I
Wendy.
think just to point out too, so page E4, under, what is this? 3, parentheses, business-related vehicles, 1, AR exception. We are editing the A applicability section because that's where the date is. So that's at the bottom of page E4. We are going to be editing the approval process section because that's where there's reference to the type 2 waiver. That ends up being on the top of page E5. And then scrolling down through E5, it is an IV under access. We will be editing that section as well. Okay. So I think. So.
Does everybody understand it? Does everybody see that? Okay, very good. Thank you. And we have the attorney and then Commissioner Marino.
While we're clarifying things, I just wanted to point out that this draft in front of you is a draft. It is close to final, but there may still be some other tweaks, hopefully non-substantive, but if there are any other substantive tweaks that are needed as a result of further review, it would certainly be clarified at the next meeting.
And that meeting would be in January 25th, 2024. Okay, Commissioner Marino.
So for clarity, what we're saying is that we're going to somehow make a path forward for anyone in the future who wants to have a tractor trailer that they can be able to park in the acreage.
Correct.
I'm opposed. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Very good. All right, the motion as stated. Those who are for it, let's have a roll call vote, just to be sure. Please.
Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner Baxter.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
Commissioner Weiss.
No.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marino.
No.
Mayor Sachs.
Yes.
4-3.
Okay, passes. Very good. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for having your voices heard. Thank you for being respectful. Thank you very much. All right, you can have all your fun right outside because we're going to continue with the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. All right, let's move on. And I just lost my... Okay, We're going to move on now to, and thank you, staff. We're going to move on to comments by county attorney.
No comments.
Okay. By the zoning director. Any comments?
We will have more ULDC revisions before you next year in 2024.
Gentlemen and ladies, I know, so gentlemen and ladies, we're going to vote on this again in January. Let's show our respect for the county commission. Take your comments outside. Thank you very much. We're moving forward. All right, the zoning director.
Yes, we will have more changes to the ULDC before you in January and February of next year, including we have farm worker housing, rural event venue is a privately proposed change. We can now move forward with agritourism because of some statute changes, and we have some housekeeping things as well to move forward with, so you'll be seeing those next year.
Very good, thank you very much. From the planning director, any comments?
Yes, just briefly. So just to briefly recap from earlier this year when planning held a workshop with the board on some shorter term and longer term changes with respect to the workforce housing program, as well as an overview of the county's growth management system. Phase one, the board did adopt last month, so thank you. That should become effective either this week or next week. That was with respect to monitoring compliance, as well as when there's transfer of development right units associated with the future land use amendment. Phase two was being held up because per Florida statute with respect to Hurricanes Nicole and Ian, you couldn't make any changes that were, I forget the exact, more restrictive or burdensome to the comp plan or land development regulations. This special session this month, Palm Beach County was excluded. So at the next comprehensive plan hearing, I'll have more updates on that phase two, as well as some policy updates to the comp plan.
Very good, thank you very much. You guys are going to be busy during the holiday season here. The executive director, Mr.
I think that's me.
There you are.
Thank you to staff. That was a lot of heavy lifting that they've done again, and I appreciate
Heavy lifting.
efforts
Thank you.
on that. Yeah, heavy lifting. And also another thing that we're going to be bringing back in January is the public civic site issues with the affordable housing component to it. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now from our commissioners, and we'll start from right to left. Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff. Man, I know you've put a lot of hours, a lot of work. You've met with my residents. Words cannot tell you how grateful I am. It means a lot. One of the things that we had discussed and had been brought up when we were looking at the Type 2 waiver was that the home-based business fee schedule. So, just without objection, when you guys come back in January and we're discussing paths forward, if you could also bring back a home-based business type fee schedule, that would work for you guys. I don't really have any specific guidelines to that, just more so options, show us how they currently are and what could potentially be that path. And I, again, just thank you, and thank you to my commissioners for a very robust conversation and support. This one meant a lot. I know, not everyone can kind of understand our area because it's so unique, but the support, even though you don't necessarily live there, is so appreciated. And I just look forward to, January. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Marino.
That was a robust conversation, and I could possibly have supported the August grandfathering in. All we've done now is encourage more tractor trailers in that community, and what is to keep other neighborhoods like Calusa and Jupiter Farms from doing the same thing. I don't think that is what the 90% of the other residents who don't have tractor trailers are looking forward to in that community. I really hope that there isn't an unintended consequence for this. And while I was, like I said, I was in favor of the 16,000 pounds because I thought that would accommodate a very large group of people. The fact that we are now opening up that entire neighborhood to tractor trailers. It's an rural equestrian neighborhood with small businesses. Tractor trailers are not a small business. And if you want to run a commercial business, you should be on commercial property in order to do that. So I'll probably repeat the same thing next month because my opinion on that won't change. But I do enjoy the robust conversation, and when we have to look at it from the greatest amount of people we're going to affect. And in this instance, we've taken the smallest amount of folks and imparted that consequence on the greater amount as opposed to vice versa. So that is my comment for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I just want to give out a shout out to our Hindu community. I neglected last week when I was making my comments to thanking them. I attended a Diwali celebration with them, and the welcome and hospitality couldn't have been nicer, and it was just a wonderful program, and I really appreciate the diversity we have in our community, and that's what I think it makes it a great place to live here, is that we have this tremendous tapestry of fabric, if you will, of our community. So thank you to the Palm Beach County Hindu community.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank staff. I know you guys put in a lot of work and probably learned more about trucks than you ever thought you would, and helped educate the rest of us on this. I really appreciate your work, and I know that the people do too. And to my fellow board members, I really enjoy serving on this board with you, even when we disagree. I disagree with myself sometimes, and I definitely disagree with my husband. So, this is, for me, it's such a pleasure, even when we get into these discussions, because this is how government should work. And we represent different people, we represent different opinions, and we bring all kinds of things to the table. And I just want to thank you. After Thanksgiving, thank you all for this.
It's so nice. It's so nice. Thank you. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to express my gratitude to staff for making what, at least for me, was a complicated matter of discussion understandable somewhat. To the extent it could be fully understood, we had a lot of clarifications, a lot of restating of motions, and wasn't the outcome I wanted. I know those of us on the losing side were willing to make compromises. My understanding was even the people from Indian Trails Improvement were in agreement with this recommendation from staff, this motion to advertise. A lot of the people that came to talk to me at my office, didn't seem as willing to compromise. I think this was a victory for maybe a more than one-sided victory for certain interests in the area that we'll see if it sticks. I know this is coming back before us in January 25th, right? First reading, second reading. Will there be an opportunity to make tweaks? I think the
Yes,
attorney said
absolutely.
not substantive, but
Well, for first reading, substantive or anything can happen at first reading. But so yeah, that'll be the official first reading will be in January.
okay, hopefully anything will happen and we'll have an outcome that seems a little more equitable than what we achieved today. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your help. And thank you to all the board members.
I want to thank everybody here for that good debate. You know, this is interesting because we have so many different areas in Palm Beach. I've never lived in an area in my life that has so many different geographic areas and diversity of people. We have all kinds of religions who live here. We have folks who raise chickens. We have folks who do landscaping, and we all call this Palm Beach. So it's wonderful that we can still have these good debates. I love it, and I look forward to compromises because as was said, I think it was Frost who said, good neighbors make, good fences make good neighbors. We've got to keep our fences high and neighbors happy. And I think that Palm Beach County should be proud of its commissioners, because we debate these issues with great clarity from different places that we come from. And I appreciate very much being your mayor. So prior to adjourning, I have to tell you that we have our next zoning meeting on January 4th, is that correct? January 4th, 2024. 2024. So, and you've got quite an agenda to work on, all of it and the staff. Thank you for what you do. And I wish everybody good, healthy next week, and we'll see you the week after. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're getting it. Not we, but the family's getting a dog. You are? Appreciate you guys.